So Neil Young threatens an ultimatum, tells Spotify either me or Joe Rogan. And he stood firm. Good for him. And Spotify said, dude, Joe Rogan. And he went, oh. And then they're going to remove all of his music. So congratulations, Neil. You have lost this one. But hey, I got to be honest. At least he's standing by his threats. So there you go.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness that he's standing up for what he believed in. You know what? I got to be honest. More power to him. If he wants to make a threat and he stood by it, all right. There's actually really big news. In fact, it's something wrong. Something's wrong with the audio, isn't it?
Let's find out.
Maybe there's something wrong with the audio. Either way, I'll just keep talking. Supreme Court Justice Breyer is going to retire. In my opinion, this sends a very powerful signal Democrats expect to lose in November. I think all the polling shows this, and Breyer is likely retiring now so that they can nominate someone and get them through before the Democrats lose the House and the Senate. And that's the interesting thing, losing the Senate too, because we expect them to lose the House. We've got a 29th Democrat retiring. Very, very interesting stuff. So we'll get into that. And we're being joined by Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch.
Hey.
And you can talk a lot about a lot of the lawsuits you have, one of which is California requires you to have a woman on the board or something like that.
Yeah, if you're a public company, you have to have a corporate, there's a new rule that you have to have a certain number of women on the board. And what that means, the mirror of that is that if you're a man, you can't apply for certain board positions or be considered for certain board positions in public companies in California. It's outrageously illegal. It's kind of critical theory, feminist style. So we sued on behalf of taxpayers in California. California has a liberal taxpayer standing law that allows taxpayers to challenge illegal activity by government officials.
Oh, interesting.
So, we've been in a now 6-week trial as the government has come in and tried to make the case that not only are they remedying discrimination without having any evidence of discrimination, but also that making sure that there's sex discrimination in corporate boards actually helps companies. So it's a big deal. It's critical theory, the feminist version of it, on trial, and the left is very concerned about it because they have a new law that followed up on that, where they expanded the required quotas to your other protected classes, minorities, sexual orientation, and things like that. So there's a whole quota system they put in place to make sure that boards are following what they want to follow in terms of upending really decades of anti-discrimination law.
So you guys do a lot of lawsuits.
Yeah.
Do you want to just give a brief introduction as to who you are and what you do?
Well, Judicial Watch I run Judicial Watch. I'm president of Judicial Watch, and we are a nonprofit educational foundation, and we sue the government mostly to get access to information, but we represent people whose rights have been violated. We help whistleblowers, and in the case like in California, where we sue government officials or government agencies when they're breaking the law. And when it comes to uncovering government corruption here in D.C., we're second to none. We've done more than Congress and the media and such. So it's really incredible work. And I say that not because I'm president of Judicial Watch. I just see everything we're doing. It's just incredible.
Right on, man. Well, we've got a lot to talk about, so thanks for joining us. We got Seamus tonight. No Luke.
Yeah, no, Shimcast is on tonight. So Luke went on down to Florida. We miss him. We love him, but I'm going to be filling in for him for a little while until he's back, and it's great to be here. And it's also great to get a chance to meet you, and I think the work you're doing is fantastic.
Thank you.
I love your background.
We got an
Seamus.
audio problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Tim might be kind of quiet.
No, my mic is completely off.
Okay, so we hear Tim's room tone. Hopefully, just keep the comments
chilling.
coming and let us know who sounds
Super
good.
chat to let us. Oh,
here
hey,
comes
hey,
Tim.
there we go.
There we go. Tim's
there
back.
you
Oh, it's getting lit
Shut you
now.
off all the way. Sorry about that.
So we will be
See,
balancing
I
this
thought I was doing something wrong. I'm getting all the
you're
signals
everything
from
right.
Everyone, there's like people in the background, so no one can see this because we're really good at it, but when like the camera's on Seamus, I'm waving my arm
waving his arm.
violently.
Tim's like,
My microphone is off!
no, it's true.
I'm like, all right, just keep listening.
Is my
keep
microphone
listening.
on now?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
be
you
good
sound
to go.
good.
It was
now I can hear you.
Yeah,
I was
did
like, what's
all-
happening? I couldn't hear
That was
anything.
weird, yeah.
And I'm like, are my headphones off? Like, what's going
No,
on?
it was trying to- yeah, it was
We'll
weird.
be-
You know,
We'll be
we have the
balancing the sound.
soundboard. We got to upgrade, to be completely honest.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because when like people noticed this, we started the show one time and it was like static.
Yeah.
And it was really weird because that makes no sense why that would happen. But these things happen.
Welcome to the future.
Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ian, did you introduce yourself already?
No, not yet. I'm Ian Crossland. You can follow me at iancrossland.net if you want to follow my social media networks. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Hello, Tom.
Yeah.
Hi, Seamus.
And I'm also here in the corner trying to fix these sound problems. I don't know what's going on over here. I turned Tim's mic all the way off to get to try to work a little bit brighter. So hopefully you guys will let me know if anything more is going on, and I will keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I think your mic is off as well.
Is
yeah,
it? Okay.
I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, did someone come in
How's
and turn all
that?
the mics off?
No,
Now I hear you.
nothing. Is that better?
Sneaky leprechaun.
Yes.
Yeah, now
Wait,
now,
why
now
is it the
we can hear you.
leprechauns?
It
Why
had
is it
nothing
the
to-
Irish
Leprechauns.
people? It's a little messed
Had
up.
nothing to do
Yeah.
with you, Seamus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ian immediately comes in with the anti-Irish racism.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's
right?
actually
I'm
really messed up.
Irish.
This is just like the
I'm
Chicago
Irish.
fire. Blame the
true.
Irish.
It's
Oh,
true.
Miss O'Leary's cow. Fantastic. Kicked over a lantern.
German and Irish.
Wait, I thought they blamed the cow.
They blamed Miss O'Leary's cow. They had to pick an Irish woman. Like the
course.
whole city burns down, and they're like, you know, it was probably an Irish lady's cow.
Yeah, no
It was
doubt.
like, come on, we know what they were doing. We were just
thought they
scapegoating.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, let's get back on track. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member, help support our work. As a member, you'll get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and that we call we call it the uncensored segment because we swear a lot. I mean,
I don't.
that's basically what we do. Is like we're like it's uncensored, and people think they're getting like secret information stuff, and it's actually just us cussing the whole time. But no, we do talk about. There's some subjects that are obviously a little too spicy for YouTube. They would ban us, so we do try to have those conversations on the website. And as a member, you're just helping support all of our journalists. And don't forget to like this video, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and let's jump into the first story.
Oh, yes.
We talk about Joe Rogan too much. We certainly do, and I've acknowledged that before. And I guess the issue is, we were sitting down and we're looking at all the news today. We got the story: Spotify to take down Neil Young's music after his Joe Rogan ultimatum. And I'm sitting here, and and I look over at our good friend Tom, and I'm like, what's more important, Stephen Breyer, a Supreme Court justice retiring, or Neil Young losing his battle with Spotify to get Joe Rogan banned? And I don't know, because I feel like the Supreme Court is more important, but you made a really great point. You said the Great Suppression is the biggest story, or something to that effect.
Yeah, well, that's what we're in the midst of, the Great Suppression. We have massive censorship or an effort for censorship targeting opposition to whatever you want to call it, the big state, deep state, the communists, whoever you want to call it. And the communists are willing to use multimillionaires like Neil Young to suppress other successful people like
Yeah.
But he lost.
yeah, he lost.
It's
And,
beautiful.
but Rogan isn't the only one being targeted. It's his listeners being targeted.
Yeah.
So when you
Exactly.
take away a leading voice that people look up to and communicate and use as a basis for further communications, that's suppression of all of Rogan's audience. So whenever we're suppressed, all of our followers are suppressed and harmed as well. It's the great suppression. And it's not private, it's government, it's private, and it's corporate.
So we have a quote here. I guess this is from Spotify. They say, Mr. Young's record label Warner Music, Group Corp's Warner Records, formally requested Spotify remove his music Wednesday, which would take several hours to take effect across Spotify services across the world. Quote, we want all the world's music and audio content to be available to Spotify users. With that comes great responsibility in balancing both safety for listeners and freedom for creators. The Spotify spokesman said Wednesday, we regret Neil's decision to remove his music from Spotify, but hope to welcome him back soon. Now, the way the left is portraying this is Neil Young stood on his principles and said, I do not want to share a platform with that man, and so they took his music down. I see it as a big loss, because what he was trying to do was he was like, I'm Neil Young.
Yep.
You better ban Joe Rogan or I'm out. And they were like, dude, Joe Rogan gets hundreds of millions of downloads per month, and you get 6.
Yeah.
You don't have any new music that's like breaking the charts, dude.
Yeah.
You're not
No.
Nicki Minaj.
Well, that's the thing. It's that really embarrassing, outdated rock star ego. Like, this isn't a convention center where you can request you only have green M&Ms in the bowl or you throw a fit. Like, Joe Rogan gets way more views and downloads than him. And I don't know why Neil Young thought himself in a position to determine what we should be able to listen to. But I think it's kind of hilarious that Spotify gave him the old, okay, boomer, get off our platform. We
Is he
don't
a-
care. We don't need you.
Is he a boomer, though? He's 76.
Oh my gosh, he's older than one. Well, I apologize. I apologize for misgenerationing Neil Young, but I'm telling you, I'm glad his music's
Ageism.
off the
No, but
platform
is
because I think
he's
it's
like-
great.
But is that boomer, or is that silent?
It's like 1944.
He's
Is that
boomer.
44?
He's a boomer?
45?
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like
Okay,
right
so I was
before
right, Tim.
Boomers
I
was
was
like
right.
44, right? 1944 is when they began, and it was silent up until then.
I'm Generation X,
Yeah, I'm the tail
and
of
boomer,
Generation
and
X.
Boomer is ahead of that.
Well, point is, I think it's a fantastic victory. The fact that this
Oh, yeah.
old school celebrity who thinks he's a lot cooler and more relevant than he is tried to throw his weight around and got taken down is kind of incredible.
But he's the oldest you can be a boomer. I just Googled it. It says 76, 68 to 76. And then technically it says you could also be 58 to 67. There's like 2 boomer generations, I guess.
Okay, so he's the world's oldest boomer.
That's silent generation.
The world's oldest boomer just
Yeah.
got booted
That's-
off of
Yeah,
Spotify.
just got booted off Spotify. I'm about it, Ian. Good.
I think of Neil Young. He's always struck me as an angry dude. When I was a kid, I used to look at his face and be like, "Why is he so
Silent
mad?"
generation. I was right. Seamus was wrong.
Well, you were the silent generation when the mic wasn't working earlier.
He sure
so
cracked
really.
that mold.
Oh, big talk, Seamus.
gonna
Yeah.
smack
So, but this is I mean, this is a big story. It's what I got out of this, and I mentioned this the other day, is Neil Young, this protest guy. I thought he was supposed to be protesting free speech, right?
Exactly.
Well, he's anti-war is his big thing. I don't think he's a free speech guy.
No, the anti-war movement was the free speech movement,
he was part of that. Yeah.
and now they're like, "Oh, speech is bad."
And
Well, you
how
know,
many
he-
war hawks has Neil Young tried to protest being on the same platform as?
He
That's a good
he
point.
did the story attacking He did the song attacking MTV for taking commercials or being too corporate, and he complained that the MTV wouldn't play his song. So the irony of him trying to suppress another artist or another person who has a God-given right to share his views. And this is a battle. It's embarrassing, I think, for the left here, but they're never embarrassed. They don't stop because normal people would be embarrassed. They don't follow those rules. They had the scientists who weren't scientists try to pressure to take him off. They were hoping to get a ball rolling with Neil Young and something else. They'll keep on pushing Rogan. Rogan is a threat, and they are not going to stop.
But that's
I don't think zombies get embarrassed that they're eating brains. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
Just keep going, and they just. Bleh.
Well, isn't it hilarious that they put together this list of like 300 doctors who weren't really doctors?
Dentists,
And, yeah,
podcaster.
dentists. And they thought like that didn't work. So they're like, we're busting out the big guns. We're going to get Neil Young to try to take him down.
You're saying you think that people were encouraging Neil to do
Activists.
this?
Yeah, the organized left they've been doing this for years in terms of targeting voices they disagree with, and usually it's trying to controversialize them to get commercials off or advertisers off. Rush Limbaugh faced this years ago. So it's, unfortunately there's nothing new under the sun, but it's gotten worse. Things have metastasized in terms of the attack on speech, and it's. In my view, is we're in a revolutionary moment. It's dangerous.
I agree. But I will say, following this story, I hope Neil Young will remember that freedom-loving people don't need him around anyhow.
Love it. Yeah. Beautiful. I got to tell you, I've lived in
Neil
Georgia
Young
for the
will
past
remember.
couple of years, and it's true. A Southern man don't need him around anyhow.
I mean, he apologized for that apparently. When he got criticized for writing, Neil Young wrote these 2 songs criticizing the South, and then he actually commented on it later, being like, "Yeah, I shouldn't have written those songs. They were too broad." Or whatever.
Cancel culture.
But
Neil.
I want to say real quick, the funniest thing about this story is how the one person who's not talked about it is Joe Rogan himself. Like he doesn't care. It doesn't involve him. He's minding his own business, and everyone else is like, we're sitting here waving our arms in the air, hooting and hollering like, "Oh," and it's like I imagine it's just Joe's like. I have a feeling I'd call him and be like, "Hey, this Neil Young thing," and he'll be like, "What happened?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Neil Young, man, trying to get you banned," and he'd be like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Tim.
Yeah,
And I'd
yeah.
be like, "Oh, he doesn't care."
Yeah.
It's not relevant.
The public policy implication, the problem there is you've got the media celebrating it, though.
Yeah.
Neil Young, it's ridiculous, as we're talking about. But the media kind of salivating and celebrating the targeting of Young, and you see the CNN types and people like that, they love that this is happening. And so that's the dangerous side of it. You've got this whole media political complex, along with big tech, that is excited about taking out voices they don't like.
Well, their ratings are in the gutter. Their revenues are in the gutter.
Yeah.
I think we saw that turning point for CNN when they lost their airport contracts. And all of a sudden, I mean, that was what 95% of their viewership.
Yeah.
And I'm only half kidding, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that much. But
Right.
CNN's viewership was largely airports and hotel lobbies.
Yeah.
And then they lost the airport deal. That could be a big reason why their ratings tanked and just but I don't know if they actually count the airport stuff in the ratings. To be honest, people are probably going to be like, no, they don't do that. But they lost tremendous reach.
Yeah.
They know they're losing it to Joe Rogan, among other people.
They're
and so-
competitor, and the dishonest side of it is they're competitors.
Well,
It's not
exactly.
even just politics. It's a business. The business is they're losing viewers to people like Rogan, and you, and frankly anyone else who has a voice online that normally isn't heard in CNN.
Well, and that's what's so hilarious about the entire situation. You're absolutely right. People are looking at this as a matter of politics, and on some level it is. But what is very interesting is the fact that he is direct competition for them in the business that they're operating in. And so when they write these articles about him, it's literally people who work for the companies that he's competing with talking about how horrible he is. Well, of course they're going to say that.
Yeah.
And what the media always does and what the left always does is as soon as they start losing, they immediately portray themselves as martyrs and victims. But the narrative falls apart with Rogan because he's one guy who people really want to listen to. And they make it seem like he's this reckless and irresponsible man who's bullying them.
Hey, but isn't it crazy how they've really ramped up the attacks on Joe Rogan?
Yes.
Like I was just reading a story like some attorney general was saying Joe Rogan should be censored. Who was that? Lee, do you know
He's
who
like
that
their
was?
Trump now.
Yeah.
Some attorney general was like, Joe
Yeah, it's
Rogan.
Biden's attorney general. He thinks that
It was Biden's?
Yeah,
Wow.
Rogan should be censored.
I
Well,
thought it was
the,
some state
the
level.
Surgeon General came out and said something about disinformation online. I don't know if he said
I think it was the
specifically
Surgeon
about
General.
Rogan.
Yeah, not the Attorney General.
Yeah.
Oh, Surgeon
That's
General.
probably the issue. Yeah.
Isn't that like a doctor?
Man, they've
Yeah.
lost control, and it makes me feel real good. It's great.
It's beautiful to
Well,
see.
Joe Rogan had Jordan Peterson on, and oh boy, are they all triggered. Wow. These
Yeah.
culty leftists are like, oh no, and they're lying. It's so hilarious how dude, when you take a clip from Joe's show and then post it along with a quote that Joe did not say, you're a moron.
Anyone can watch it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when the people are sharing it, I see this clip where it's like Joe Rogan said, unless someone is 100% black, you can't call him black. And I was like, I'm going to watch this clip. And Joe said nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort.
They're literally just making things up.
Yeah, I mean, he some of those things were like tangentially related to what he was talking about. He said it was basically strange that there's like people from all over the world of different skin tones and different backgrounds, and like just calling all of them black just kind of seems kind of weird because they're different people from different,
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like, sure, I get what Joe's trying to say, but then to take that claim that Joe's saying unless someone's 100% black, you can't call them black, I was like, why would they just lie about that? So when someone then retweets that, I'm just like, these are not serious people.
No.
It's good though because they're just lying.
Yeah.
I don't think a single person believes when they retweet something like that, and they're like, look at what Joe said. I'm like, I know you don't believe that.
Yeah. Well,
Because you can listen to the guy.
And
Yeah,
what Joe
yeah.
Rogan is saying actually opens up a very interesting discussion, which is the fact that in the United States of America, black people have a racial identity but not an ethnic identity because of the tragic history there and the fact that they don't know which part of Africa they're from as individual people. Whereas with the white population, a person generally knows if they're Irish, German, English, Dutch, whatever ancestry they have. And there's something tragic there, and it shapes the way that a culture operates. But of course, the media has to turn that into Joe Rogan is racist and says you can't call someone black unless they're 100% black. It's ridiculous.
Well, from the outside, it looks crazy. The self, the identity issues, and it sounds to me like Rogan was highlighting that. It's like, well, how do you calculate who's one color versus the other? Especially since we now envision people being able to self-identify any way they want.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the left enjoys that, they like that, but the downside of that is it's going to blow up the anti-discrimination infrastructure we have here in the United States.
Yeah.
So if you have laws that protect women from being discriminated against, or you have laws that protect people from being discriminated on the basis of race, if they self-identify in ways that are kind of raise issues in that regard, well, how are the laws applied? And so there's this kind of war on reality in some respects, but also a war on the law in terms of discrimination. They don't believe in these anti-discrimination laws because the way they talk and think about them would actually negate them and make them inapplicable.
Yeah.
I think for me, one thing that instantly broke me out of the left lies, I just immediately saw it, was how someone can identify as whatever they want, as long as you agree with their political ideology.
Yeah.
Like someone
Right.
super chatted us this the other day. They said, black people can't be racist, but Candace Owens is racist.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, hold on there a minute. Because according to their, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
But they say it.
Well, for a Marxist, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
you oppose us.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
communism 101. She has false consciousness and she's not black.
Well,
I mean, that's communism.
Well, and it's interesting because the question I've always wanted to ask, they always pose this as a question of black versus white. But then it's like, okay, well, like, what if a black person hates an Asian person? Or what if an Asian person hates a black person? Or a Hispanic person hates a black person? Like, if you're not white, you can't be racist. So is that not racist?
What if an Asian person is black?
Oh, yeah?
I'm about to bend some minds, yo.
Yeah, people can't
Well,
believe
what if everyone in this room hates an Irishman?
Well, you guys all do based on the way I'm treated. Now, to be fair, and I've
pretty
said this
sure
on the
we're
show
all
before,
Irish.
and and I've said this on the show before. I know people who are like actually born and raised in Ireland get upset when you say you're Irish and you've only lived in America. But here's the thing: it's not like I'm not bragging; it's an admission. All right, this is like, okay, yes, this is where
Confession.
my ancestors are from.
But I'm pretty.
I'm kidding. I'm proud of it.
But I'm pretty sure everyone in this room is
No,
part
everyone's got
Irish.
some Irish.
Are you
True.
part Irish?
Yes, I am.
Well, that's because the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, baby.
That's right.
All right.
That's the truth.
Ireland.
But the other thing
Big
too
families.
is I find it hilarious when I see people talking about me on like Reddit or something, and they say like people. I don't know why people will be like Tim Pool doesn't identify as white or whatever, and I'm just like I have no idea what that means.
No, dude,
That's like
I
the
don't identify
weirdest-
as white. What does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be your skin color, but it's not.
Yeah.
No one's white. No one
Yeah.
has white skin. It's crazy.
But look,
Wait, Ian,
the
what?
left, social
Everyone's got, like,
justice,
pink-colored
Marxist
skin, you know?
cult
That's
or
true.
whatever
That's true.
doesn't view race as skin color. They view race as political. Then
Yes,
they later,
exactly.
depending on this is what they do. In order to win an argument, they'll use they have two different paths they can take with the same language. So they can say, no, I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about how someone can look at this man and discriminate against him. And then later they'll be like, I'm not talking about skin color. I'm talking about the politics of blackness, the political black. It's like, okay, dude, you're talking about whatever gets you power.
Exactly.
I get it.
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, when they talk about being white or identifying as white, they fail to take into account how an individual person actually identifies themselves. And so I understand their argument that because I'm white, I don't really think about my skin color, etc. But if you look culturally at my, upbringing, being from an Irish Catholic home in the Chicago area, and you compare that to the upbringing of a white Dutch person or a white English person who was raised in a Protestant home or without religion, you'd actually find, and I have found this, just based on the churches I've been to throughout my life, is that I have far more in common with a person on the basis of what religion they were raised in as opposed to their skin color. And so when you're talking to a black person or a Mexican person who was raised in a Catholic household, you can just relate on a level that I don't relate to on somebody just because they're white. It's ridiculous. Like that's not how I identify.
Yeah.
I have more in common with people that like play blue in Magic the Gathering than their skin color. I don't care about.
It was Matt Walsh made this point about when he's on Dr. Phil. He said we can dig up a skeleton hundreds of years later.
Yeah.
We can't know what they were thinking, but we can know it's male or female or whatever. And I think that actually says a lot more than just that conversation. It's like you are so much more as to who you are on the inside, your values, the things you believe, than what you look like. You know what I mean?
And it's such a funny thing. I joke about this, but like in the United States, Irish people were not like considered white until being white meant you had to apologize for being white. It's like,
Well, there you go.
yeah.
Congratulations, James.
No, I know. But no, it's just interesting because like whiteness is a label that was actually used to bludgeon my ancestors. So when you look at who was excluded from the United States and the people who had a light skin tone who were considered non-white, it was almost always Catholic groups.
And what's frustrating to me is that we're having this conversation, and it's one thing to have the conversation. It's another thing to be in positions where you're in a school and you're a teacher or you're in government and you're being told you are a bad person because of the color of your skin. So the CRT or whatever you want to call it, the woke approach, it's not just about it's offensive morally and intellectually.
Yeah.
As applied, it's illegal. Okay,
Absolutely,
you're not
absolutely.
supposed to discriminate on the basis of race and select people on the basis of race. I mean, we just had settled a lawsuit in Asheville, North Carolina. They had a scholarship program. Only black kids could apply. Completely outrageous.
Yeah, that's insane.
So we filed a civil rights claim against them, and they settled, and they changed the rules so that it's
Right on.
it's race neutral.
Well, so let me ask you.
But they're trying to undo constitutional protections of equal protection of the law and the civil rights laws of the 60s. They're trying to do it. We're trying to defend it. And I don't mean us, Judicial Watch, we are literally, but I mean us who are conservatives and follow the rule of law. We actually believe in non-discrimination. They don't.
Isn't that crazy how they flipped the script on you guys?
We're the civil rights advocates.
The craziest thing to me was this past election when we had California trying to repeal the civil rights language from their constitution. Did you see that one? It was they called it the Affirmative Action Amendment. It was such a sleazy title for a bill. It literally would just strip out from the California Constitution. The language says you cannot discriminate on the basis of race, sexuality or origin or whatever in public accommodation in public employment, contracting, and schooling or something like that. And they were like, we need to get rid of this so that we can be fair and treat minorities fair. And I'm like, when we fought for civil rights in this country to make sure the law would not take these factors into account. And now the left is trying to repeal that language in California. They lost, by the way. But I remember, I've told you guys this story before, but those who haven't heard it, I was talking to a friend of mine, an activist, a prominent, well-known celebrity in Hollywood, and we were having a conversation because we've been drifting apart politically. And I said, "What's the the racial makeup of California?" And it's like 70% white or something like that. And I said, so do you think that when California repeals their non-discrimination language from the Constitution, that the 70% white majority is going to protect the minorities now? Or do you think they'll just either consciously or unconsciously start benefiting themselves and their race? And there's no real answer I get from these people because they don't want to admit they're wrong in repealing this language because it's part of their tribe. But I was like, look, some of these cities in California are like 99% white. And if your perspective is that white people are racist, why would you empower these people to discriminate on the basis of race? And they have no answer. They have none. Now, I got to be honest. I don't really think white people in California are going to be like, now's our chance to be racist.
Yeah.
But if that's their ideology, why would they want to repeal that language unless they actually want to be racist and they actually want to do these things?
Yeah, exactly. Well, because these white people aren't going to be like, I can oppress other people who are non-white, but they could go, I'm going to make myself feel better about this white guilt complex by discriminating against white people.
I got to be honest. I really think that what we're dealing with in the culture war stems largely from those in the know and those who aren't. That's really it. I mean, if you go to, I went to the March for Our Lives, I think it was. That was the gun thing. And I saw all these people holding up signs saying ban assault weapons or whatever.
Right.
And I'd ask them what does that mean?
Yeah.
And they couldn't tell me. And there are several people that said, assault rifles should be illegal or should be, ban assault rifles. And so I'd stop and I'd talk to people and I'd be like, I wanted to ask you about your son. And I said, so you want to ban assault rifles? And they'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, well, they're almost entirely banned. You can't make any new ones, I think, since 1984. And in order to get one now, it requires, a special licensing. It take up to a year.
The tax stamp.
The tax stamp. They're typically very expensive. They can be thousands of dollars. And they would go, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, what are you protesting? I wasn't mean any. I was just like, oh, I had one woman. She was holding up a sign, and I asked her these questions, and then she folded up, and she's like, oh, I didn't know. And I'm like, then what are you protesting?
Yeah.
So I genuinely believe a lot of these people just don't know. So this activist friend of mine posted something recently from the March for Life. Seamus, you were down there.
Yes.
And it was some
great.
lefty guy walking up to protesters and saying, how many children have you adopted? And it was like this bumbling middle-aged woman. She goes, none. And he goes, oh, okay, I've adopted 2. And she goes, great. And then he goes to another one, how many have you adopted? And she's like, I've not adopted any kids. And he's like, I've adopted 2. It's like, okay. And I'm watching this and I'm like, what message is my friend trying to convey with this? That these 2 women haven't adopted any children? Most people don't adopt children.
Yeah.
Is this an indictment of the pro-life movement?
Yeah.
They just don't know. If they went down there and they spoke to any of the organizers, they'd be like, oh. Look, a lot of the organizers, a lot of people involved do run charities for helping children and promoting adoption. And they do adopt a whole lot. But they just don't know anything about this. Why? Well, I think apathy. A lot of people just don't care. They want to pretend to care. Makes them look good on social media, right?
Yep.
General ignorance. it's not their jobs to be journalists. You know, I don't blame every single person for just not knowing. Some people, you work your 9 to 5, you go home, you want to be with your kids, you want to play, maybe throw a football a little bit. You don't got time to sit down and read all this stuff.
Yeah.
And but I will blame the mainstream press to a great degree. Let me pull up the story we got from Fox News. CNN's Jim Acosta compares Virginia to Soviet-style police state under Glenn Youngkin. Critics took to social media to blast Acosta's comparison, calling it a bridge too far and evil. Well, as you all may not be aware, Jim Acosta is doing some show on CNN called Democracy in Peril. I think it's funny that Glenn Youngkin only just got into office. There's no Soviet-style police state. If anything, barely anything's happening. Meanwhile, in D.C., you need to show your papers to get into a restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
But not to vote.
But not to vote.
So the question, what exactly does Acosta think the parallel is here?
He's lying.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if he's in New York or Atlanta or D.C., but in our nation's capital, if you want to visit the Capitol and protest, it's more difficult to do so, especially if you're not vaccinated. If you want to communicate with your elected representatives, it's nearly impossible to do so. We have that rump committee threatening and talking about throwing out hundreds of members of Congress because they opposed they were involved in the election disputes. You have the Justice Department talking about investigating thousands of people because they were opposed to the election disputes. That's the Soviet-style approach to governance.
You see Joe Walsh?
Good for you.
On Twitter?
No. I know who he is. I didn't see it.
He said anybody who tries to put forth a fake group of electors should be investigated or blah, blah, blah. So let me just want to...
Which Democrats did in 1960
You beat me to
Hawaii.
it. That's right. So what they made up a fake story. Rachel Maddow talks about it. She's like, I've discovered forgery documents. Shut up. They're not forgeries. What happened was when the election was being contested, whatever your opinion is not the point. Republicans said, we are going to fill out the forms the same as the Democrats were, and we're going to submit them. And sure enough, when the official electors came in and were certified for the Democrats, they went and Pence chose them. And it was 1960, I believe, right?
Yep.
Nixon versus Kennedy. Hawaii certified Republican electors, but the Democrats decided to go and fill out their own forms anyway. Lo and behold, the courts ruled in their favor. So when the uncertified Democrat electors went to the joint session of Congress, Nixon said, we know what happened. The courts have ruled. So I'm going to pick these anyway. Imagine that.
Yep.
It's historical precedent. But now you've got these people lying about it. And this is what I say. This is why I say the culture war is between people who know and people who don't know. Because if you've read, I read about that stuff in 1960 years ago with Nixon. I was reading it years ago and, with the midterm elections or whatever. And so when all this stuff comes up, I'm like, oh yeah, they just did what happened in 1960, but he lies about it.
Yeah. I mean, in my view, there's a special place in hell for politicians who want to put their political opponents in jail. I mean, to me, that is a particularly grave evil.
Should be a special
Donald
place
Trump,
in jail for him too.
Donald Trump said Hillary Clinton should be in jail.
Well, I don't think he said she should be prosecuted, and he didn't want to put her in jail because he didn't like her politics. He thought she committed crimes. Here you have the leftists saying, "Oh, participating under the First Amendment in a rally is an evidence of a crime. Participating under the constitutional system to challenge electors and federal law to challenge electors that we've done since time immemorial, that all of a sudden is a crime."
Right.
It's more pernicious than that. It's one thing to say, I think this person committed a crime. She stole all her emails. I mean, we were involved in that. It's another thing to say, I don't like your politics and you should be censored and you're a criminal and a terrorist. That's what they're saying in a casual way.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention this. I mean, the Clinton campaign wanted to have U.S. intelligence officials brief the Electoral College on Russian interference in order to sway them. So they have absolutely no respect for the system or ensuring that the electorate or those in the Electoral College select those whom were voted for.
We went through 5 years.
Yeah.
Technically now it's 7 years, but I was, before in 2020 it had been 5 years of lies about Russia and Ukraine and all of that manipulation. You want to talk? Hey, Jim. You want to talk about Soviet-style police state? Let's talk about how some dude who works for the CIA accuses the president of some nonsense, and the people of this country can't even say his name. Please don't say his name, because we can't. Because You want to know who's enforcing the Soviet-style police state? It is the Democratic establishment. It is the media. It's social media. If we say the name of this guy, YouTube will take the stream down.
Well, and that's exactly the thing. So I think the best way to summarize a Soviet-style system and the parallels in America are as follows. In 2016, it was alleged that the election was fraudulent. And in that instance, we investigated those who were elected. In 2020, it was also alleged that the election was fraudulent. This time, we investigated the people making the accusation.
Yeah.
Well, the left has been doing this since 68. They thought Nixon stole the election. They had secret negotiations with Vietnam. 72, he overwhelmingly won. So the left used Watergate to relitigate. He cheated his way in. 1980, Reagan had secret talks with Iran. His election was invalid.
I saw this. I think Snopes tried doing a fact check on it, but it said something like every election since 1968 the Democrats have claimed has been stolen. Is that?
Well, it's 2000. I was down counting ballots in 2000.
Wow.
Gore was running around trying to change the results. And then 2000. Then now we're in 2016 with Trump. They tried to change the results.
I'm just tired of it. I got to be honest. I'm tired of it with the Trump supporters. To be honest, I'm tired of it. I've been tired of it from before this. It's just, look. I just want to get to the point where we move forward. But I think we need to understand at this point, 2016, 2020, 2068, whatever year, I don't care. Nobody's playing by the rules anymore. And I mean that figuratively and somewhat literally. What I mean is it's like, Walsh on Twitter being like, we should lock up the people who forged these documents, but they didn't. That's a lie. When they subpoena Alex Jones, these subpoenas from the January 6th committee, we had, I think Bannon may have told us this, expensive. You can't just get subpoenaed and be like, okay, tell me where to go.
Yeah.
There's cash.
It's $15,000 to look at it.
Just to look at it.
Yeah.
Yep. And so what they're doing is they're draining resources. They're using the power of the federal government to suppress, to shut down dissidents. The weight of the government is going after political rivals in a way Donald Trump never did. The man talked big and said to Hillary, oh, you'd be in jail, and then did nothing.
Yeah.
He did nothing.
Did you see the Politico story the other day that confirmed or showed that the Capitol Hill Police Department, which answers now to Pelosi and Schumer, Pelosi is the queen of the Hill when it comes to security, is gathering intelligence on members under the guise of security, investigating where they're going, who they're meeting with, donors and staff. So you've got this unholy melding of a police force with a political party.
I bet that they're thinking if we don't observe and spy on everyone, the Chinese CCP is going to do it. So we have to be the ultimate spy network. I think that's the mentality.
Well, many of them are on the payroll.
Oh, so it's bigger than the governments and it's more of a multinational coercive. Yeah, I would get down with that.
I do think we're winning. The raid on James O'Keefe. It just shows you how completely desperate the establishment is to maintain their power.
Now, that was a wild abuse of power, and we just got documents last week. I don't know if you saw.
That's right, the Pfizer stuff.
I mean, was James talking about? Was he on with you recently talking about it?
Yeah,
he was on, but I don't think we talked about it.
So we
I
asked.
think it was like right afterwards.
This was fun because sometimes when they tell you no, you learn something. So we asked the FBI give us records about communications with Pfizer about Project Veritas, and they said we can't give you those because they're in an investigative file.
Confirming their existence.
It's like normally they don't confirm it, so it was kind of an odd response.
Yeah.
So they've confirmed that Pfizer is working with the FBI somehow to target Project Veritas, who had, for those who don't know, had done some exposés on fetal cells and being involved, or fetal organs being involved in the creation and helping guarantee the safety of vaccines, things that they didn't want out there, which are true, but they don't like it out there because people get upset about it.
But that's just the Veritas thing is a really good example of the desperation to be that overt with your strategies to go against American journalists. It just shows, to use the metaphor we've used nonstop for the past 2 weeks, the emperor has no clothes. But they had power for a long time, and it's being ripped from them. I think the internet is what's causing it.
Yeah, well, and it's just at this point, imagine trusting a journalist who the entire system isn't trying to crush.
Yeah, when any news channel that puts on Adam Schiff, I'm just immediately like, okay, it's fake news.
Yeah, exactly.
Turn it off. Turn it
Exactly.
off. Nancy Pelosi too.
Lapdogs.
I mean, I think it's fair to bring those people on if you're adversarial, but
If you want to make fun of them, you know.
Although, I don't know. I'm all big part of like ban the account, not the person. I don't think that just because someone has a track record of lying that they're necessarily lying. So I don't want to discount these people flat out. I understand that it's more of a variant scale, and maybe someone that lies a lot is like maybe a 7% weight to their statement, but that's still 7%.
I don't know, man. So you're right that it is technically possible for somebody to lie about something and then tell the truth later on, but a person loses their credibility, and honestly, there are so many people trying to compete for our bandwidth that I have no interest in giving my attention to someone who I know has lied before.
You know, with politics, you don't
Repeatedly.
I don't really care whether someone lies too much in politics. I mean, it's a problem. You know, morally, it's objectionable as a voter. It's the corruption that bothers me. Adam Schiff abused his power to take the phone records of Rudy Giuliani and publish them. And then we go to court trying to get the records, and part of their argument was we can do that, and we don't need a court authorization to do it. So right now we know that they're taking the phone records of people, and who knows, internet records of potentially, I don't know, millions of people, the way they're wording these requests, and there's no control or policing of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Alex
that's an
Jones's
abuse of
text
power.
messages.
That's corrupt. It's not even they're even using subpoenas anymore. They're just requesting the information. So if you were a supporter of Trump online and made comments on election and you had your account deleted or censored, that's the sort of stuff that Congress is asking for information on. I mean, do you want that in the hands of Congress or Adam Schiff? These are, like I keep on saying, our republic is under assault. And this isn't political differences. This is a question of whether or not we're going to follow the law and we're going to follow the infrastructure the Constitution has laid out for us and how we govern ourselves, or whether the bad guys are just going to break all the rules to go after their enemies.
They changed the law. The Patriot Act's insane, but they made that legal so that now they can legally just take all the records legally, even though it's still corrupt.
Well, yeah. I mean, the FBI hasn't backed off from their targeting of parents as terrorists. I mean, there was controversy about it, but they're still doing it.
Yeah. Let's talk about this story we got here from Timcast.com. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer to retire. The justice and the Biden administration have not yet released a formal statement. Jen Psaki did say, you know, it's the prerogative of the justice to retire when they feel like it. But, I mean, that's the story. Stephen Breyer is going to stay until the end of the term, which just is, when is that ending? Is that ending in October?
I mean, they usually end the term in June, sometimes
okay.
July, but normally all the decisions are done by the end of June.
Oh, okay, June.
Yeah.
All right. So, seems to me that Breyer, who is considered a liberal justice, they're doing this because they think they're going to be losing the midterms.
Yeah, they forced Breyer out. The left had this really unprecedented campaign to pressure to pressure Breyer to retire. I guess there's another campaign to pressure Biden to retire too, but that's another.
That's coming from all sides, to be honest.
And Breyer had some interviews late last year, or he was out, I think, selling a book, or he was being interviewed, and it was pretty clear he had no interest in retiring. And something changed, and they pressured him, and he left. They bullied him off the court, and you can bet the left that bullied a sitting Supreme Court justice off the court is going to demand that Biden appoint an extremist to replace him, not a normal liberal, someone who's extreme.
Well,
and so that's going to be the battle, and technically, the Senate can get someone passed for Biden or confirmed by Biden if they get 50+1 vote, and we'll see what happens.
And Kamala would be the tiebreaker, I'd imagine.
We're going to need term limits.
Unless she's the nominee.
If we're going to save any, if we're going to cover
but
the
then
public.
Lindsey Graham would vote for her.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham has voted for most of the judges put forward by Biden, at least in committee.
Yep.
Like you were saying, how cancel culture can whip up a frenzy so quick now. It's like things can happen so fast that having someone in power for 50 years as a Supreme Court justice is too dangerous. It doesn't make any sense anymore. I think we need term limits. Otherwise, we're going to get a 38-year-old or a 42-year-old that's going to think they're going to be in power for 50 years, and then
I don't know. I thought about this. It's an interesting question that, should we have a time limit for justices or should it be a lifetime appointment? There's pros and cons. Yeah. I do like the idea that, when someone gets appointed, it kind of puts a pin in the cultural perspective and says this person, he's 45, he's going to be a justice and he's going to be there for 40 years. It kind of helps. I think it's a stabilizing force. The detriment, however, is you get someone like, we had that Supreme Court justice who was on his, he was partially comatose or whatever, and he was just like shaking in his bed, and they're like, what do we do? Oh, he's a lifetime appointment. So,
Right.
But I don't know. What do you think? You think we should boot him out at a certain age or something? Or
I'm sympathetic to that. I think the chief concern is the quality of the judge and his judicial philosophy. So having a judicial supremacist on the court who wants to steal our liberty and steal our self-governance and govern from the bench, if he's on the court for a year, that doesn't do us any good. If he's on the court for 10 years, it doesn't do any good. But to have someone who defers to the Constitution and applies it as written and originally understood, having them on the court for 30 years is fine. The question is, what is the role of the court in our constitutional system? And it's outsized. We shouldn't be waiting with bated breath about how we're going to govern ourselves on these core issues every June. What's the court going to rule? The court is one branch of our government, and I'm against judicial supremacy, and that should be the big fight. And I would expect that finally, at least Republicans who share those views, we can't be approving judges just because the president deserves his justice. No. The people deserve to have their rights protected and not violated by justices who think they know better than elected representatives.
Amen.
There's several laws and there's several rulings you go back that just seem to be outright wrong, just on the face. I think, I'll throw this one to you, Seamus. Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the big argument is that it should be a legislative issue, not a court issue. The court shouldn't be legislating, right? So break this down for me, though. I'm just trying to highlight the issue without getting too political on it. But the big argument that we heard from, Kavanaugh, I think Clarence Thomas, when they were arguing the Mississippi abortion law, they were like, why is this a court issue and not a legislative issue?
Well, when you read, and I encourage people to read Supreme Court opinions because they're generally written for public consumption, and if you're, literate, you can understand them. And the left is exposed when their arguments are laid out there. And when you read Roe versus Wade, you see it's written like a piece of legislation. It's a perfect example of legislating from the bench, and it's not appropriate. Abortion has been regulated by the states, for most of modern history, until, certainly once they started talking about abortion, they were regulating and restricting it. I know there's arguments about the history, but it was a medical procedure and it was regulated, and there was no federal jurisdiction over making sure that abortion was in of protecting the abortion right. It's not part of the Constitution, and so you had the courts, certain courts in the Supreme Court, justices who agreed that women should have the right to abortion, and then they mistook their policy preference for what the Constitution requires. And I talked about, I remember seeing Judge Bork, lose his nomination, and he wrote a book. He called it "The Tempting of America." And the great temptation for judges is to get on the bench and impose your political views and call it jurisprudence.
So one day after the show here, a while ago, now almost a year and a half ago, one of our friends that back at the old studio, Nishra, who's Adam's wife, we're all hanging out in the kitchen, and she's from Sweden. So she says, I have a question. Your Constitution, it says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I'm like, right. And she's like, well, why are they banning guns? And everyone starts laughing. Just because it's like someone who doesn't live in this country could clearly see how broken the system is and that it makes no sense. And we all laugh because we know. We know that legislating from the bench the courts not properly ruling on our rights. It happens all of the time. The system just seems. It feels like we started with a good foundation, and now it's just like this wonky Jenga tower of random blocks stuck in places because people wanted to, get something for themselves.
Well, on the other hand, things are going well. That's why the left is so upset about the Supreme Court, and they want to expand it. You had last week, you had Nina Totenberg defame and smear Judge Gorsuch. Jane Mayer of the New Yorker went after Justice Thomas and his wife afterward. You're going after his wife to get at Justice Thomas. You've had this pressure campaign on Breyer. And I keep on talking about all our institutions being under assault. They're trying to blow up the Supreme Court with this court packing scheme. So that Breyer leaving is, he's He's a liberal. He'll probably be replaced with a liberal. But the goal is to pack the court and negate the conservative voices on the court that now are rising and dominating.
Yeah, I mean, I think the populist view is that Roberts is not conservative and that, Kavanaugh hasn't actually done a decent job or anything like that. But I don't think they're going to replace Breyer with a liberal. I think they're going to replace him with a Marxist or something.
Yes.
Well, I
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what Senator Manchin has to say about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, Manchin and maybe Sinema, because they've stood, they've resisted the Democratic Party's whims. But you still have some Republicans who are going to be like, now we got to be accommodating and fair.
Right. But it's an election year, so I think it will be. There's a greater chance that Republicans will be unified against a extremist nominee, and it depends who the nominee is.
Well, Biden says it's going to be a black woman.
Well, again, so now Joe Biden has announced that no male need apply, no white person need apply.
Yeah.
How is that legal? Can you guys? I mean, would you guys sue him over that?
I don't think you can sue him over that. I don't think so.
But that's, I mean, it's so weird that we're at this point in this country.
I mean, I always want to sue over everything, and the lawyers say, well, you can, but you won't succeed.
Yeah.
the saying is you can sue a ham sandwich.
Another
Doesn't
world
mean you'll
leader
win.
that was obsessed with appointing a specific kind of creature to their role was Caligula, who appointed the Roman emperor, the inbred Roman emperor, who appointed his horse to be a chancellor.
But wasn't that he was insulting them? Wasn't
yeah, he was like making a mockery of the system.
This is different. This is racial identitarianism
It's insanity.
coming from our president
It's
for our Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Well, it was the same thing with his VP nominee, and it's hilarious because he chose Kamala Harris essentially to pander to progressives because he pigeonholed himself. He said, I have to pick a woman of color. And basically every progressive I know hates Kamala Harris. So it's beautiful. And I can only hope that they will hate his Supreme Court nominee just as much. But of course, I'm sure that I won't like them either.
The way the Democratic Party has been going in the past couple of years, I wouldn't be surprised if Biden chooses the most absurd, hated person, neoliberal establishment, and all the progressives start screaming, and then the Democratic senators are like, if I vote for this, I'm going to lose.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, whoever he picks, like, it is going to be horrible. It's going to be a horrible pick.
This is what it sounds. Whoever he picks, like we're waiting for Daddy to make a move. It's so gross. How does this one dude get to pick?
it's called the
Who's
president.
going to make the decisions?
The Constitution gives him the right to appoint the judge, and the Senate has to provide consent, and so an advice and consent, as the term is. So there is a check in place, and it's going to be a close-run thing. I mean, typically, if Mitch McConnell were in the majority, there'd be no doubt the nominee would get through. Mm-hmm. My view is Chuck Schumer's been an awful leader for the Democrats. He's been dragged around by AOC and the left, and he's lost control of the Senate. And so I think the president's nominee that otherwise might be able to squeak through might be stopped because of the craziness in our politics right now.
Let's talk about this story we got from the
so.
LA Times. Trial to determine if requiring women on boards is legal.
That's our trial.
So this is your trial. This is a story from back in December. But, when you get a president who says the principal determinant for a Supreme Court nominee is going to be race and gender, I'm like, that flies in the face of the civil rights movement. It flies in the face of what we were fighting for. And it's what the critical race theorists want. It's what the cultural left or whatever. They want your position to be determined based on identity. So in California, what did they do? They passed a law saying that you have to have a woman?
The legislature passed a law requiring that a certain number of seats be set aside for women. And so that means that men can't apply for certain seats on corporate boards of directors in California. It's outrageously illegal. It's a violation of the California Constitution, which has more broader protections against sexual discrimination than the federal Constitution does. And so we've been in court. We had 4 lawyers out there for 6 weeks fighting the government, who are bringing in all these so-called experts who are pretending that it's right to require women to be on the boards and discriminate on the basis of sex. And the argument they're using, the left's argument, is, well, it helps corporations to have more women on the boards. There's no real evidence of that. But
even if it did, it's illegal.
It's still illegal. It's still legal. But the point is, they're fighting it. And so those of us who, when the left says they're in favor of and hate discrimination, that's the big lie of our era.
Yeah.
The most interesting development and troubling development is the thorough assault on anti-discrimination law in our schools and our corporations and our military, and you see it now in the government, that you can target people based on race or sex and discriminate against them, and you'll have all the king's horses and all the king's men. I mean, we're in court suing the state of California. Where is the Justice Department? Where is the Justice Department? The Civil Rights Division is harassing states for requiring voter ID, but allowing discrimination based on sex, race, and every other category to go on in California with nary a peep.
Yeah.
Was Trump doing anything about it?
Listen,
Trump
before
DOJ.
Trump. Well, the Justice
No, but I
Department,
know,
the
but-
Justice Department under Trump was a disaster too. I mean, Barr had no interest in doing any of this aggressive thing. Now, I say that knowing that he did do some good things. But the point is, the Justice Department institutionally is a locus of evil when it comes to public policy. And they do not believe, and this was true in the Obama administration, there was an IG report, they didn't believe the laws against racial discrimination applied to whites in voting matters. I mean, that was the finding. It was our people who worked there told us that. We have some our attorneys used to work at the Justice Department. They were told that. It's not designed. We don't believe these civil rights laws apply to all people.
We had some guy on the show. I'm not going to say his name, but he was arguing and very much in favor of critical race theory and stuff. And he's saying like you guys want to ban this stuff from schools and blah blah blah. And my response to this just simply when Donald Trump wanted to ban the critical race theory trainings for contractors and stuff like that, and these leftists are like, I thought you supported free speech. I'm like, I do. I'm just also in favor of enforcing laws, and if it's an illegal discriminatory action based on the civil rights law, we enforce it.
Right.
So you can't come to me and be like, we like the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We like these rulings. It's like, oh, well, Trump wants to enforce it. How dare you? We should be allowed to discriminate, but you shouldn't. It's like that. Who's that guy? Was it Frank Herbert was his name? When I am weaker than you, I ask for freedom because it's according to your principles. When I'm stronger than you, I deny you your freedom because that's according to mine. Was that Frank Herbert who said that?
That's a guy who wrote Dune.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You looked
Yeah,
that
a
up?
similar version is
It was?
last night.
evil.
Oh, okay, cool.
Evil calls for tolerance until it's ascendant, and then it calls for submission, basically.
But the left is always, the left uses these arguments as a tool.
Exactly.
And when the tool becomes not useful, they cast it aside. So anti-discrimination, they saw as a political tool. Now they don't like it, they cast it aside. The Supreme Court they liked when it was Roe versus Wade, but now that they're ruling against us, oh no, we got to cast it aside.
Right.
We used to like the Senate filibuster, but now we need to eliminate the Senate on top of the filibuster.
Yeah, that was
insane.
Colbert. He said that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Senate. So when you like I say, revolutionary moment. Filibuster isn't the target. The target is eliminating any impediment to power.
Yep.
Amen.
Stephen Colbert goes on his show with Elizabeth Warren, I think this was a week ago, and he says we should get rid of the Senate. And everyone laughs. He's like, I'm going to say this. Hear me out. Why don't we abolish the Senate? The whole audience laughs. And he goes, I'm 100% serious. Yeah, if you're 100% serious and your audience is laughing at you when you say it, you're insane.
Yeah, and Liz is
Tonight
100%
Show.
Cherokee.
Yeah.
He was like, actually, I'm like 0.0019% serious. But no, it goes to show you how far these people have gone. Because one thing that we used to say to make fun of them when they would talk about the Electoral College was that at that point, they may as well just try to abolish representative government in general. And now they're actually doing this. And I've also seen this with respect to the argument that's been made about gun control. I've heard a lot of conservatives say, well, why not ban automobiles because of all the people who die in car accidents? And now I'm actually hearing left-wing people argue that we need to shift to a national railway system.
Yeah,
And one of the arguments is
never
because
presume
of-
the crazy stuff
yeah,
is something
exactly.
they oppose.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's like jokes that we will make to highlight the ridiculousness of their worldview tend to become positions that they actually support within a matter of years.
The, authoritarianism will do that. If their enemy makes a joke like, well, here they come, the authoritarians will be like, they gave us the green light, let's go.
Exactly.
Well, Trump was criticized for saying that, oh, look, they're taking down statues of Confederates.
Yep.
Are they going to take down statues of Jefferson and Washington? I remember thinking, oh, yes, they will.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's perfectly. I mean, we laugh at the craziness, but it's perfectly rational within the Marxist worldview, and they don't find it funny, and they're perfectly willing to go to these extreme circumstances. I mean, look, I call it the Rump Committee, the January 6th Rump Committee, is a one-party committee in the House that is exercising legislative and investigative power.
Is it actually all one party?
Well, there are Republicans who answer to Nancy Pelosi, but who who don't represent the minority party. So it's a one-party operation. So how is that consistent with a Republican form of government?
No, that should be an external, independent organization doing that committee.
Well, it shouldn't be. You know, what they're investigating is their political opposition. I mean, that's when you talk about the USSR, that's the playbook.
Also, speaking of the statues, do you remember when NPR did a fact check on Trump's statement that they would eventually go after statues of people like Washington and Jefferson? And they fact checked his prediction before it happened, saying it was incorrect.
No, don't get me started on the fact check.
They're fantastic.
What?
Yeah.
I used to think that we should get rid of the republicanism. I thought the House of Representatives this is like 2007. I was talking to Mike Gravel, actually. He was an Alaskan senator at the time. And I was able to communicate with him a little bit. And I thought, it's just, I saw them getting bribed. I saw the stopgap of like, only these guys get to make the laws. It just felt like they were all corrupt. I wanted it gone. I was like, why can't we just have the Americans pass the laws into the Senate and then let the Senate be the stopgap? Why do we need this House of Representatives anymore? We have internet. And Gravel was like, no, we need the House of Representatives. And I was like, is he just brainwashed because he's from that system? Or do we actually need this? I don't know. I don't think they should have the monopoly on lawmaking, though.
Yeah, I mean, the founders wanted kind of the Republican system has democratic, democratic outlooks, but it kind of is also designed to suppress the vote by, just have the popular vote be promoted directly, so that the passions of the moment don't result in legislation being passed. Everyone gets angry about Joe Rogan and he gets banned because there's this backlash, and then what happens the next day? Well, he's banned because it was passed because they had a vote that was national that resulted in him getting banned. You don't want to be on the wrong end of that. And when you have liberties that are protected by law and are supposed to be protected by law at all times under a constitution, you don't want to have those subjected to the popular passions as well. So we have a Republican form of government with democratic aspects, and the left hates it.
We've had this conversation before, Ian, where I said everyone in this room, all in favor of taking Ian's stuff from him? Yeah. Everybody?
Yep, I'm good.
Everybody raise your hand. Everyone agrees? Okay, Ian, give us your stuff.
Well, then you'd have to send it to the Senate, and the Senate would look at it and be like, what's this insane stuff, and who is this person that tried to pass this in?
The point is, when you have direct democracy, we can just vote to take from you.
I'm not talking about I like the Senate. I'm just saying the House of Representatives. I don't understand the value.
So they represent the people, and the Senate represents the states.
But they don't represent the people. That's the problem. They're supposed to. One person represents 700,000 people.
Whoa!
They represent their own interests.
Whoa, Ian. 750,000 people.
Thank you for the update.
It's a lot of people.
So
and they don't. And this is something that Colbert said when Kirsten Sinema was like, the filibuster makes sure that legislation has to have a broad range of support. Colbert goes, no. You represent 40. He's like, the party filibustering represents 41 million less people. Colbert thinks that the 50% or the 49% of Illinois that are Republican or whatever the number is just blindly agree with their senator because the election was won.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
Right.
In fact, there is a great deal of Republicans in many of these blue states who are very, very, very unhappy. So when Colbert is like, but you represent more people. Yeah, well, those 41 million people are probably conservatives who don't like you, who don't agree with you. So it's not as simple as just be like, do whatever you want when you get power.
Well, I mean, it's like this argument about the popular versus the electoral vote. What the left does is they take numbers and apply them to a game that the numbers aren't, that are outside the game's rules.
Yeah.
So, oh no, the Yankees really won last year because they got more strikeouts than whoever won the World Series. Well, that may be interesting as a matter of fact, but that's not the way the game was played.
Exactly.
And no one played the game to get more strikeouts.
Exactly.
So no one plays the game in presidential elections to get more of the popular vote. So it's irrelevant to analysis of who gets more votes or not.
Yeah.
And it's the same at the congressional level and the Senate level. It's the popular vote it's not relevant to the game.
Like it's an indication, because if one team got like 100 times more strikeouts than any other team, but they still didn't win, you might think maybe the game's being played wrong.
Well, for instance, Trump doesn't campaign in California. So all that popular vote that's run up for Democrats in California is never countered, because playing the game doesn't means that Republicans don't go and ask for the popular vote. Now, if there was a popular vote contest every 4 years, Democrats think they'd win. No, the game would change, and Republicans would start agitating for the popular vote, and who knows who would win?
Yeah.
No, if there was a popular, if one day they said, hey, everybody, guess what? 2024 is going to be a popular vote. It wouldn't just change the rules of the game. The country would be ripped apart by chaos and fighting.
Of course, the left doesn't believe in the popular vote because they want to change the Electoral College.
Yeah.
So let's say that Texas votes majority for Trump, but the majority of electors are voting for Biden, or the popular vote is different in other states. Texas has to ignore their popular vote.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all a game.
Well,
and I prefer the game the founders set out for us rather than the game the left is trying to come up with now.
Yeah. So the first time I ever voted was in Cook County. But
how many times did you vote?
Yeah, exactly. Only once, believe it or not. But I don't question the legitimacy of Cook County elections. I will say this. I remember feeling like it was a protest vote because it's just such a deep blue county, and Illinois is such a blue state that I didn't think it was going to have any effect. So I voted for who I wanted to, but I recognized it probably wasn't going to have an effect. And I knew a lot of people who didn't vote, a lot of conservatives who didn't vote because they knew the state was going to go blue. I think you're right that if we did change to a system that was purely based on the popular vote, there actually is a chance that the Republicans would win, because a lot of people who are disillusioned by the politics of their local municipality or state would start voting. That said, I agree with you. It would not be an improvement.
I want to talk to you guys about the leftists in this country. And we'll segue into that. We got the story from Mashable.
Oh, man.
Anti-work subreddit goes private after rough Fox News interview. Yikes, saith Mashable. I would like to introduce you to a subreddit called Anti-Work. My understanding, after some cursory research, is that the point of this forum was it was people who thought no one should have to have a job. You should be allowed to get food, shelter, and whatever given to you without doing any work. It started to grow rapidly. 1.7 million followers of this subreddit, this forum. It quickly changed, however, into a work reform, where it was like, hey, we just want rights. We want to do work, but we got to get paid better.
Sure.
Now, ultimately, I think this message is co-opted by the left, and that's what poisoned it. But here's what happens. Fox News reaches out to interview someone from the forum of 1.7 million people who don't want to work or who don't like working. And so this is what I read. Basically, they all held a poll where they said, okay, should we do this? Everyone voted. The majority said, do not go on Fox News.
Oh, boy.
One of the moderators decided to go on Fox News anyway. It was a autistic, non-binary individual, I believe, who appeared on Fox News, wouldn't look directly into the camera, and was shying away in a messy room with an inarticulate message that seemed wishy-washy, saying things like, I have to walk dogs 25 hours a week, and I shouldn't have to do that to be able to eat and survive. And I think probably that was more articulate than the person was. This caused brigading, people rushing into the subreddit, and then ultimately it shut down. Now they're saying they may come back. But what I find fascinating in this whole story, the anti-work movement, the rapid, explosive spread. Fox News covered this from, only a year ago to, tens of thousands of followers to 1.7 million. When you go to the subreddit, and these are people who are outright saying, I shouldn't have to have a job. This is the mentality of the modern left. So I will first say a lot of the work reform arguments from many of these people, many of them leftist, I completely agree with. Someone takes out 20 grand in school loans. Now they owe 100 because of interest. And I'm like, okay, that I can understand is a problem.
Agreed.
If you take out a loan for 20 grand and there's some interest on it, I can recognize, you got to pay it back and you got to pay back the interest. But when it's massive, and that's for a lot of people, then I'm basically like, the system is corrupt. We got to shut that down. I can respect that. But when you come out and say things like, and I shouldn't have to do any work, I should just get stuff. I'm like, which slave, will you be, which person will you be enslaving, which group of people in order to have them do the work to make your food, because food doesn't come from nowhere. I mean, even when it grows on the trees,
Yeah.
someone's still got to go get it for you.
Exactly. No such thing as free lunch. And every single thing you have that you didn't work for, somebody worked for without having. And sometimes that's fine because it's voluntary. Somebody gave to charity, they wanted to help you. And then sometimes that's not fine because it was forcibly taken from the person when you yourself could have been earning money. It's interesting how our conception of work has changed over the past 100 years, maybe even just the past 50 years. But people used to see their job as something that gave them meaning, and they no longer do. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And I'm not just blaming workers themselves for having this attitude. I think in many respects, the working class are not treated well. I don't think the left has done a great job representing them historically. And I think that they need people who are willing to fight for them, who actually have some level of contact with them and don't despise them and their values, which they don't right now. But ultimately, people used to conceive of their work as that which they contributed and that which they were adding. And now we have this idea that there are certain jobs that are worth doing because what is being done at those jobs is valuable. And then basically every other job is pointless and it's humiliating to have to do it. But the reality is there's dignity in all work. And yes, workers should be treated with more dignity. I agree with that completely. But the idea that, well, there are just certain jobs nobody should have to do is absurd because all of those jobs need doing. So what you should be saying is respect the people doing it. You shouldn't be saying, I shouldn't have to work to survive. It's insane.
There's a meme that I saw that I think sums up a lot of the culture war. It was my brother posted it. It said people who are unvaccinated and oppose the vaccines don't want you to get it because they're scared you could die. Mm-hmm. And the people who are vaccinated and want you to get it are scared they could die. And regardless of the vaccine opinion, I'm not asserting anything about vaccines. It's just a meme.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that there's this perspective of, oh no, I don't want you to be hurt. And the other perspective is, you better do this so I don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Right. I bring that up because, and always talk to your doctor about private medical decisions, but I bring this up in this context because what I see often from the left and like the anti-work community is, I shouldn't have to work and I should get stuff. Mm-hmm. And then my attitude is, let me make as much stuff as possible and then help others with that stuff I have.
Exactly.
Well, it's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah, and so I think historically, and again, this is easy for me to say, right? Because I started a small business when I was 18 years old. It turned out to be very successful. I get to do something that's difficult at times, but that I genuinely love doing. And there are a lot of people who have jobs that are very difficult. They're not in the position that I'm in. And so I totally understand that. But at the same time, I'll hear people say things like, I have to work for 40 hours a week. That's unnatural. In the past, people used to take pride in the fact that they were spending that amount of time contributing.
Right.
The problem now is in this job economy that we've found ourselves in. The Federal Reserve loves this. They want two people, and they're like, I don't have a job. What do I do? The Federal Reserve will be like, well, we have an idea, or whoever is in control. You dig a hole, and then you come over and fill that hole back up once it's dug. Right. And we'll print $100,000. And then we'll give you 50,000 and you 50,000, but you're gonna have to start paying us interest back on that $100,000. Mm-hmm. So they win. The more money they can give out, the more win they get. So people are aware. They've awakened to the pointlessness of a lot of these jobs. Now, when you define work, that's a scientific word. That means it's an energy transfer in joules. It can be measured. We're working right now. If you're thinking, you're producing work. What is the work? Is it contributing to society? That's so important.
And that's really important because you sort of mentioned these work projects, and I've heard people discuss this idea that, in times of economic downturn, what we should be doing is creating these jobs that we don't actually need so that we can get people back in the workforce. And what that fails to take into account is that the purpose of a job isn't simply so that somebody can have something to do all day. The purpose of a job is to find a way for a person to be able to contribute to society at large. And it goes back to what we were discussing earlier with these discriminatory practices of only wanting to hire someone on the basis of their sex or skin color, because what you're basically saying at that point is, we're not interested in whether you're qualified for the position because the position doesn't exist for the people you're supposed to serve in that role. The position exists for you to feel special because you have that position. That is how we view work nowadays.
I'm just going to leapfrog so much of this conversation because in my mind, I'm just like, hopscotching through all the points at church. That's where it ends up. Church.
It's exactly
community.
Right.
People have no purpose.
Yeah,
they have no purpose. So when they're complaining about work, it's because these jobs aren't fulfilling to them.
Yeah.
They feel like they're wasting their time, their lives, and their energy, and they want to do something else. But they don't have anything else either, so they get ideological.
Yeah.
I'm not saying. So I just want to clarify too. I'm not an overtly religious person, but my point is that when there was church, there was community, and there was purpose for people. And that's what people are lacking now that we're an increasingly secular country.
Exactly. And I'll add this and also clarify in case there's any doubt about this here. As I've mentioned earlier, I think the working class does need to be treated better. I think there are so many jobs that we view as indignant or beneath people, and they're not. And part of the way we change that is we really need to admire the people who do those jobs because they're really important. And church is important here because as a Roman Catholic, at basically every church that I've been to in my adult life, and particularly the Latin Mass that I've attended for the past few years, there is an intersection of so many different people from various economic classes and standings. And I don't think people have that anymore because they don't have religion. When I think about the friends that I've made through my church and my primary friend group, basically all from different income brackets. I can't think of any other social organization I'm a part of where that's the case.
Public school.
But part of why I think that's really helpful is because it does put you in touch with, like, I'm not only, if I wasn't going to that church, if that wasn't my faith community there, I might only be in touch with other people working in artistic fields or doing politics on the internet. But instead, I'm in touch with people who are plumbers or, painters, artists of a different variety, or work for a union.
We should create an award ceremony for trade jobs. Mm-hmm. So that we can highlight, I'm half kidding, but we as a society, we sports athletes, celebrities, they get all of the attention we have to give. Mm-hmm. And then the people who are actually making this country work don't get any of it.
And I think there's a spiritual component. You're right to say that. But I also think there's this elitism as well, that work is beneath me.
Yes.
That I shouldn't have to do this. Mm-hmm. And one of the arguments that's always bothered me about immigration and legal immigration is like, they do the jobs that Americans won't do. I'm like, well, first of all, there's virtually no industry where immigrants are the majority. Mm. And so Americans are doing these jobs, and they're not beneath anybody to do. In fact, many of our parents and grandparents did jobs like this as well, and it wasn't beneath them. Yeah. And they recognize that the work and the money they earned from that help provide for their families, which was the most important thing in the world. So they're elitists, they're torn from the world, from the community, as you talk about spiritually, and there's this leftist contempt generally for the concept of work.
You go to the anti-work subreddit, what do you see? Their related subreddits are socialist, communist, anarchist, leftist anarchist. You look at the related subreddits, work reform. The communist fist is their symbol. It's remarkable, this ideology that infects these forums, when the issue is more to do with what you can contribute, just doing hard work, rolling up your sleeves. It's not about anybody else. It's not about a grand ideology. It's not about someone ripping you off. It's about you valuing your life, your time, your energy, and what you do. But all of them just get infected by leftist ideology. Then in comes the cultural leftist ideology, and then they implode on themselves.
Yeah. Well, and this idea that there are jobs that Americans are unwilling to do. I mean, this is a country where we have, abortionists, pornographers, prostitutes. The idea that there are just these jobs that are so far beneath the dignity of Americans and what they're willing to accept is ridiculous. It is the case that there are certain wages an American will not work for, and that is why they want to import people to do those jobs.
Here's the big problem with the leftist ideology in these subreddits is that they're doing nothing to stop the mass wave of illegal immigration.
That's right.
And so they're wondering why it is. You bring up there's wages they won't work for. Mm-hmm. Well, when you bring in, we had 2 million people entering this country without any sense of where they would go and of how they will survive, all of a sudden now these college kids who are looking for entry-level positions, you're not going to get out of college and go work for a firm. Mm-hmm. You're going to get out of college and go work for a Starbucks something while you try to figure things out, maybe find an internship. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to be able to do that either. Mm-hmm. Because now all of a sudden you're walking up and you're seeing a huge line of people who want work. So all of these entry-level positions, they say the minimum wage should be $15 an hour. It would be if the supply of low-skill labor was reduced.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, the unions used to be opposed to mass immigration. If there were honest, if there were well-run unions who were creative, they'd be saying, okay, well, if we're going to have a government program that depresses wages, meaning mass immigration, well, we have to make up for that with as you point out, with an increase in the minimum wage. So big corporations, you can get your immigrants, but we get on our side, because we're subsidizing your labor costs with a government program, we get to ensure that our employees and union members get increased wages. It's a major issue.
What if you raise the minimum wage only for large corporations?
They don't care.
They wouldn't care.
It's a rounding error.
But
to
what
them.
would happen is they couldn't hire
but that's what they
as
do.
many people, but more people would be benefiting from working there, but they would still limit their ability to hire mass.
They would just increase the prices, and it would have the same effect on the local economy.
But then people wouldn't buy their stuff because their prices would go up.
That's
They'd work
that's not even that's maybe partially
Or they'd
true.
hire less people to save the money.
But what they would do
And
is
the business couldn't grow.
No, Ian. Here's what would happen. If you went to Starbucks and said, and they do increase minimum wage based on company size as well in a lot of places, like if you have 50 or more employees or 150. But here's what happens. Starbucks, let's not say Starbucks. Let's say S-Bucks. Just a word I made up.
Yeah.
Seattle Bucks Cafe will
Shout out to
find a
Seattle.
location where there's a mom and pop cafe. They'll open up next door and purposefully lose money with ridiculously low prices. You know why? Because a regular person's going to walk up and they're going to see mom and pop shop $5 Frappuccino, and they're going to look over at Starbucks, $4 Frappuccino. Starbucks loses $1 on every sale, but they're strangling the small business who doesn't have the coffers to fight back. So if you came out and said, okay, then we should raise the minimum wage on these these bigger companies, Walmart's going to sit back with the cigar in their mouth and be like, oh, we can sink all of them. We're going to drop our prices because we have billions upon billions in profits. We're going to take a 20% loss on that store, and we'll pay your minimum wage. And then once we eliminate all of the local shops, local bakery's gone, local butcher shop is gone, local clothing store is gone, then we're going to crank the prices way up to accommodate those losses, and you can't do anything about it. There's nowhere to go.
Inflated wages and reduce the cost of their sales. You think that's a big risk for a large corp? That's a big risk.
No, it isn't.
I think it
Bro,
is.
in San Francisco, Starbucks is across the street from Starbucks. I'm not even kidding. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
All over the place. Yeah. There's literally a Starbucks and across the street
I think there was a Starbucks inside of a Starbucks. No, that was an Onion article.
No, that was an Onion article.
Yeah, it sounds true.
It might happen.
In Chicago, there was one intersection where there's on the southwest corner Starbucks and the northeast corner of Starbucks. They don't make money doing that. They dominate and take over. Bro, these corporations make so much in profits with all of these locations that they can sacrifice one location to defeat you, the people, the working class.
Oh, so you think they'll lower the prices at a specific location?
That's what they do. So if, a local jurisdiction says our city is increasing the minimum wage, they'll say, okay, we will pay that. And then we're not going to raise prices. We're going to make sure our prices are low enough that anyone who could compete with us in an X mile radius is put out of business. Then we can charge whatever we want, and they'll get their money back.
To an ignorant populace, that would work.
It
if
works
people
all the time.
know
It
what's
works
going
the time. Yeah,
It works all the time. They do it all the time.
to an ignorant populace. If people knew what they were doing and that they were
do.
trying to put businesses out of business and they realized it, then they would
They
boycott
don't care.
the place.
This is why I said yesterday.
I do.
You do. But I said this yesterday. Let me know if you agree, Tom. I said if you went to your average American, I don't care if they're liberal, conservative, or otherwise, and said all of the good in your life, your wages, the cheap gas, everything, we will allow you to keep, but we need you to sign this document to kill a bunch of kids overseas. I say they would sign it. I say the average American would be like, done and done. Just don't tell my friends I did. People walk up to Starbucks knowing exactly who they are and what they do. Right? I mean, we just went and bought a bunch of Starbucks because they got rid of the vaccine mandate. That's a specific
Don't roll
action.
me in on this one. You did it, Tim.
Yeah, but that I stand by. I stand by. Yeah. When a company does the right thing, I want them to do more of the right thing. So I'll call them out now. And it's not just about Starbucks because look, I've only heard the anecdotes about Starbucks.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, fact check me on that. I may be wrong.
But I don't know about
Starbucks
specifically, but it is true that businesses will intentionally take a loss in order to destroy their competitors.
But can they take the level of loss of having their wages go up and their costs their sales
depends
costs?
on
That's a big
depends on
change.
how much the change is in either direction.
The quote Nancy Pelosi when she was defending her individualized stock trades, that's capitalism.
Yeah.
And the challenge is that you may not like it. It's like, how do you fix it? And the only way to fix it is through a regulatory scheme run by incompetence liars or lying incompetence. So there's no good answer to that. If you don't, I sometimes shop in places that aren't chain stores because I know I'm getting a little bit more customer service and that's good. And other times I'll go to Starbucks because I like the coffee there.
I got to be honest, out here, even in West Virginia, the local coffee and bagel shop has a mask mandate by choice, and the Starbucks doesn't.
You guys
Well, I
better
go to
drop
Starbucks.
that mandate, dog. You heard it here first. Can we
Uh,
talk
we-
about Nancy Pelosi for a second?
Nancy
we're not
Pelosi.
gonna-
So
she's
Nancy
running
Pelosi,
for re-election.
Nancy Pelosi has announced she's running for re-election.
Oh, good for her.
Is she-
Heaven help us.
Is she just doing this because it looks like the 29 Democrats are resigning?
2020. You mean the 29 Democrats are resigning?
Yeah, 29 Democrats are about to resign. So that she's like, well, we're going to lose the entire House to the Republicans, so I need to stay here. Is that, you think that's why she's?
Yeah, I mean, she can retire at any time or end her campaign at any time. So
You know what I think we should do, and hear me out.
Okay.
100% serious.
Hearing you.
I believe some nice gentleman should bring in a wheelchair to her office, place her in it, put a blanket on her lap, and wheel her out, bring her to a home, and make sure she's comfortable. And then we, the people, will decide what to do next.
Are you suggesting she has a Joe Biden problem?
Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah.
I mean, she's just old and out of touch and incompetent. And at a certain point, we have an age minimum, but perhaps we require an age limit as well.
She shakes when she talks.
Well, we were talking
And her
about
teeth
this,
fall out.
I mean, we were talking about this before the show started. You know, compare and contrast the mental acuity of Dr. Fauci
Who's 81.
Exactly.
with Joe Biden and/or Nancy Pelosi or many others. of
Well,
similar
to be
age.
fair, Fauci has flip-flopped so often. Maybe he does have
Oh,
some,
yeah.
some kind of brain thing going
But no,
on.
I mean, it's true. It's so much more about the individual person. It's you can't really put in a blanket statement and say at this age the person has to step down because some people are just sharp at an older age.
The nice thing about comparing Biden
Then
to
why
Fauci,
do we have an age minimum?
No, I mean, I think the age minimum is a life experience thing. I think that's a big part of it. I mean, do you want like a 21-year-old in any of these positions?
Yo, if there's somebody who started working in, like a factory with like their family or whatever when they were 7, and they've got 15 years of experience in, a political and industrial environment, it's better than a 25-year-old who just graduated from college.
What about non-Americans
I hear what you're saying.
What do you mean?
that
what
move
about
here, like
non-Americans?
Elon, a non-American that moves to the United States when they're 2, but they can't be president, and they have all these restrictions on what they can be in government? Do you think that we should get rid of that stuff?
No, I think that's good. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
But age restrictions, you think we should get rid of?
Age restrictions? No, I'm in favor of putting more on.
Oh, I thought you said a young genius should have
I
access
said
to...
we should have an age limit
Well,
for old people, and he said, but
no,
you
but
can't determine the life experience, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Some people, and then I said, well, we do it for young people. My
But
point
I
is,
think-
we have a minimum. We should have a maximum. I'm not saying definitively, I completely 100% believe we should have a maximum. I'm saying let's entertain the possibility that someone who's 80 should probably retire.
You could do
Yeah.
cognitive tests.
But this-
How
so-
does that-
The
I
laws
think
they
we
are
disagree.
passing, they will not live underneath.
they don't do tests.
Yeah.
Okay, so if a society grows great when people plant trees whose shade they know they'll never sit beneath, 80-year-olds like Pelosi and old people like Biden are not planting trees for anyone.
Yeah,
they're not going to see whatever happens. They don't care.
It's a complicated.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go
Well,
ahead, Shane.
it's a complicated thing because I do think that it's an age floor is a bit different from an age ceiling here, but ultimately we have a system that's structured so that because you leave office eventually, everyone's sort of incentivized to just pull what they can out of the system for as long as they can until they leave without really thinking about the long-term consequences. Because let's say you have a young politician and sure, it's like they're not going to have to live under the policies anyway because there are different laws for them. They're above it.
Well, so my proposal was the island.
The island.
The island.
Which is?
As soon as you leave office, you get sent to an island where you will live with other people who have left office. You will own nothing, and you'll be happy.
I have an island where I put people, but we do different categories.
a flying island.
I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe they can go along with them. I don't seriously think that idea is the right idea, but I'm just trying to think like, how do you stop someone from saying, I'm going to run for office, I'm going to get in, I'm going to extract as much as I can, and then I'm going to run away.
You don't. That's all any of them do.
Well,
Right.
I mean, that's
So
all
how do
any
you
of them
stop
do.
it?
To me,
I don't know.
if-
It might
if
be
I
built
were-
into democracy and representative democracy.
This is advice as head of Judicial Watch. We're nonpartisan. I give to all politicians. To me, running on a reform agenda would be a solution there. And that agenda would include term limits, balanced budget amendments, significant cuts to the federal government. Because what happens is it's not someone who's 80. It's someone who's 80 who got there when they were 40. I prefer having someone there 75 to 85 there for 10 years. That experience is of great value to society. So that's not the issue. The issue is the term of office that politicians are in. And to me, I know there are a lot of conservatives who don't like the idea of term limits. I don't think it's a silver bullet. But what happens is it breeds the worst aspects of being a politician.
You're right.
Cynicism, institutionalism, contempt for other people's views who aren't in Congress because you've known it all since you've been there forever. No. We need new blood every few years.
You're right. And I think I will revise my The Island statement and just say perhaps the solution is Logan's Run.
Great movie.
Yeah. Seamus, are you familiar?
I have not seen Logan's Run.
So when you turn
It's worth
30,
watching.
when you turn 30, you shuffle off the mortal coil.
Are you?
So people have
are you
lights. spoiling it? People have lights. Yeah, it's
I mean, we
from
laugh.
the 70s.
We laugh, but that's been the approach with Breyer. Breyer could die in office. That's why they were angry at what's Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
That's
because
a great-
she died during the Trump administration. She should have gotten out.
That's a great satirical article. Red light on Breyer's hand begins blinking red.
Yeah, that's
forced
the way,
to retire.
That's the way the left looks at Supreme Court justices.
In Logan's Run, they had lights on their hands, and it was like when they were young, it was green. When they're getting old, it turns yellow. When they're about to turn 30, it starts blinking red. And then Logan's Run is,
he runs.
yeah, he's like, I don't want to die. I'm only 30.
he just runs. He's like, all right, bye.
We
That's
got
how
a
you
runner.
escape it.
We got a runner.
Dude escapes dystopia
Have they-
just by running.
They
That's so
could
Chad.
remake that movie, and they could do it really, really well.
They kind of did. So there
they?
was a film I saw a few years ago. It was like, I saw it recently, but it came out about 10 years ago. It's with Justin Timberlake. It's not exactly the same, but you have a barcode on your arm that says the amount of time that you're alive
yeah.
for. And when it
Yeah, I
counts down
remember
to zero,
And you
die.
can buy time.
But you can buy time, yeah. So wealth is the amount of time you have. So not exactly the same, but kind of a different twist on a similar
Yeah, that one's.
concept.
I think I saw that. I think that's a cool concept.
Yeah.
So maybe we. I don't know.
It's weird
These sci-fi dystopian movies aren't really the
If
solution
we were going to
to our
remake it,
problems.
it would have to be in a dream. Like they trap you in your metaverse, and then you have to run in the dream. Because in the real life, if you try and run, there's drone bombs
Dude,
and like
that's
lasers.
it.
But in the dream, you can run away.
No, Ian, you run for office, and you
then
get
you run to get away
you
from
get,
office.
You get so a term is 4 years. You run for Congress, boom, you're in for 4 years. As soon as that 4 years is up, there's no re-election. You get locked in the Matrix.
Wow.
That's it. You're just out.
But we don't have the technology, so it's just going to be Mark Zuckerberg like duct taping Oculus to your forehead and putting you in the metaverse. Like you can't get out.
You're
it just
covered in
wraps
bed
around your head.
sores.
Yeah.
The theory is there was the old play Dr. Marlowe by Faustus by Christopher Marlowe. He's
Dr. Faustus,
Yeah,
I've seen-
Faustus
read
is
that.
dealing with the devil, Mephistopheles. And he said, "How did you get out of hell, Mephistopheles?" He said, "This is hell, nor am I out of it." So we're still in the Matrix.
Yeah, man. Maybe. I think the metaverse is coming. I think we're all going to get locked inside of it.
We're in
Think
a
so?
matrix. You can measure the matrix we're in if you know how much of something, what it is, and where it is, and you can measure that in the XYZ axis, this cube that we're within.
Okay, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah,
but
I
my,
know.
my
You're gonna do a
proposal.
spot check.
Define
can
the
you-
spot check. Define
Ian,
the
I got
matrix.
it. You might
My-
have
my
And then you can
proposal-
recreate it.
Everyone, my proposal is this: when we elect Joe Rogan as president in 2028, he should issue an executive order mandating DMT passport requirements for access to bars, restaurants, and universities.
Ideally.
Did you smoke
Trust
your
the science.
DMT?
What?
Have
Do
you
you have
smoked
your-
DMT?
do-
That's what
Have
I'll
you
ask.
had your
Have you
have you
smoked
had your
it?
DMT booster?
DMT
It wears off.
I think to Joe Rogan's credit, I don't think Joe Rogan would vote for Joe Rogan.
No, I agree. I
Good
agree.
point. Love the humility.
That's true.
But it
And
would
the
be
great
funny
thing
if,
about
like,
Joe is it's his guests. They talk a lot about Joe Rogan. And he is a genius. Like he'll talk himself down, but the way he can sit there and listen to Jordan Peterson, you need a genius
He's
to
the
do that.
Larry King of the internet age.
Yeah.
And shout out to his guests. I mean,
There,
he really,
there is something to be said about a passport for some kind of deeper understanding of reality. I don't think it's necessarily, DMT. That's the joke. But perhaps if we as a society were like, a service guarantees citizenship or something to that effect, like you need to understand something, you need to do work and contribute for something in order to get something in return. Right now, it's we had that famous quote. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. It's completely inverted these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These
Well,
days it's-
there's a war on citizenship. I mean, the
Yes.
whole zeitgeist now is to eliminate the distinctions between citizens and non-citizens.
Oh, New York's. You can vote.
So, I mean, they want you to be. It's offensive to the transnational progressives. They don't believe in nation states and sovereignty because it gets in the way of the communist utopia they're pushing.
Yeah,
And, and I wouldn't have said this 6 years. I mean, you knew this was out there among the Marxists for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's kind of a rising communism in a major party here in the country. This is their go-to strategy.
It's not coincidence.
I mean, when CRT is the guiding movement and narrative for a presidential administration, those pushing it must be very proud.
Dude, Build Back Better is a Klaus Schwab thing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is part of the World Economic Forum's Great Reset is Build Back Better. This is where I first heard of it. And then all of a sudden, a year later, Joe Biden is saying those words as if we're going to do it without referencing Klaus Schwab. And please correct me if I'm wrong. If Klaus Schwab didn't say it, then I'm totally off base. But I remember talking about
It was all
this.
over Europe. I think Boris Johnson claimed Biden stole it from him because Build Back Better was all over Europe.
Okay.
Well, Nancy Pelosi used "Drain the Swamp" when she ran to take control of Congress in 2010.
Wow. Really?
There's nothing new under the sun.
Yep. And Make America Great Again was Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, Morning in America again. Morning in America.
This is exactly right. Klaus Schwab first started circulating the idea of the Great Reset, which uses Build Back Better integral part. So we are co-opted.
Are we allowed to say the Great Reset?
Yeah, Great Reset is very plain.
Yeah. I know all these algorithms get triggered by certain words.
It's either directly influenced and has co-opted our president, or indirectly. But this methodology of building back better with a socialized corporate political government state is in Joe Biden's head, whether he realizes it or not.
Well, certainly with COVID, initially there was this panicked, crazed decision making on the shutdowns. Now it's vindictive and vicious, and they see it as an opportunity for dramatic political and social change. I mean, I don't think it's any mistake you had this Reddit thing pop up with "I don't want to work."
Yeah.
After 2 years of people not having to work.
Yeah. All right, everybody, let's go to Super Chats. If you have not already, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. It really does help. And go to timcast.com, subscribe. We're going to have a members-only segment talking about election stuff. That'll be up around 11 or so p.m. But let's read what we got here. We got Dylan Hernandez says, I subscribe to your Timcast monthly plan. I used PayPal to leave it as my autopay. Have not used PayPal in months. Just let the payments go through, but days ago, PayPal banned my account. Didn't do anything but give you money.
Oh.
Yep. I can't say I'm surprised. I don't know if it has anything to do with us, but maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was because you didn't use the account, to be completely honest. If you set up an account with PayPal and then you turn on autopay and then don't do anything with it, they might send you an email and be like, hey, is this account still active? And if you're not really paying attention, they might just say, okay, shut it down. That could be one reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know.
All right, let's see. Blue C says, check my ads posted. You are next. Yeah, they're just, trying really, really hard to get attention. So congratulations. The super chat works in their favor. But I gotta be honest, we are principally not funded by ads. It's this weirdest thing where the left is going after like Dan Bongino and I think Ben Shapiro, maybe. I don't know. But it has something to do with January 6th. And they're like, we're going to get all their advertisers removed from their show. And I'm just like, we do direct ad reads. Like I read the ads at the beginning of the show and we only do 6 per month.
So you do advertising like traditional radio advertising, where the host is reading an ad.
Yeah. It's all like
cleaned.
Like directly with us from people who know us and ask us. Like the companies come to us and they're like, "Hey, we want to be on your show." So I don't get.
You're not begging them.
Look, it's just grifting. It's just people who are
would we
lying.
have to pay you to encourage people to donate to Judicial Watch?
You have to pay me to do it?
Would we have to?
Oh, I mean, or you can just come on the show and shout out Judicial Watch. But for the most part, my
that's
friends,
the way you would do it. You know someone and they know you and you.
For Judicial Watch stuff.
So Sleeping Giants isn't going to be able to stop anyone from advertising.
Well, that's basically what it is.
Yeah,
it's a lady who got really mad because she tried claiming she started it when she didn't, and then so she's trying to be like, it was me, but it wasn't. It was some other guy or something like that. So now she's trying to get attention by posting overtly fake garbage. As everybody who watches the show knows, she's made the claim that I've pushed the big lie that Donald Trump won the election, which I've never once stated, not one time. And for this, the Trump supporters are very mad at me. They don't like me for it. But we're funded by members at timcast.com. So what makes this show work? Timcast.com. Memberships. What makes our journalists able to do their jobs? Your membership at timcast.com. So when these people just make up these lies, like we're going to go after their advertisers and our advertisements are like 0.1. I think it's like 0.01% of the revenue. It's so ridiculously small. It's completely negligible. And I'm just like, I actually was talking to the company and I was like, do we even need this? Like, do we need to do this? It's like, well,
Is it worth it?
you should, because the idea is that, once the website gets bigger and has much more traffic, it could become substantial. So, for the most part, they're just grifters who are trying to use the fact that our show is growing and hatred from trolls or whatever to make money, and they've made tens of thousands of dollars off lying. They overtly lie. They make things up. They completely fabricate things. And I will state for the record right now as a statement of fact that these individuals fabricate information to trick people into giving them money, and I believe it is an act of fraud. Yeah, I can assert that with. I mean, look, I'll be honest. The lies are so obvious that it's not even a question for me to say.
That's my view generally about big tech. It's all fraud. The censorship is evidence of fraud.
Oh wow,
and should be prosecuted.
But why do you say fraud?
Because they're saying they're censoring you for reason A when in fact it's reason B. So they're lying to users, shareholders, regulators, and Congress.
Oh, interesting.
Securities Exchange Commission, Federal Trade Commission, Congress, DOJ, antitrust, whatever, should be investigating the fraud.
Yeah. All right. Michael Holder says, regarding the race swapping characters thing, it's not actually about the race swapping. It's that everyone in Hollywood has become race-obsessed ideologues and turned everything they write into woke VeggieTales. Ask Eric July about it next time he's on. He'll talk your ears off about it. Oh, no, I get it for sure. We were talking last night about Titans. It's the DC show.
Yeah.
One of the characters, Starfire, is in the comics. She's like an orange alien. And they cast a black woman to play Starfire. There was this big uproar, I guess. A lot of people were angry, like, why are they, Starfire is not black or whatever. And my attitude was like, it's an alien. Anyone could play this character. I don't understand why anyone would be mad about that. But their response is, it's not really about that. It's about the race obsession and the wokeness and the CRT and stuff and like that. I get.
Yeah.
Wait till you hear about the M&Ms.
I call it racialism. It's
Yeah.
this obsession, and it's disturbing. It's really disturbing.
I agree, man. I agree. All right. Joker says, Shimcast forever.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And honestly, it has been forever since I've been on. It's so great to be back.
We got to we have this Timcast thing that's behind our guests all the time. You can see it. Someone made it for us. We need to get one that says Shimcast.
We do.
Yeah.
Hang it
Anyone,
up right
you
behind
guys,
me.
someone wants to send us a
Someone wants to make
Shimcast
that?
sign
Please.
that looks like that Timcast sign?
Dude,
We're putting it
until
behind
then,
Seamus.
They were looking for something to put up behind me, so Tim just pins a lint roller to the wall. It's right there.
Yeah.
This is
I
what
said
I'm working with.
He was actually rolling the lint off him before he did it, too. He was like,
indicates that
this will work
Seamus is
fine.
dirty.
I
I'm
am
not quite
dirty.
sure
Well, I don't
what's-
think
is
there
that
needs
the
to be an
anti-
indicator.
Is that the anti-Irish subtext to it?
Exactly.
Oh, it
It's
has nothing to do with him
extremely
being Irish.
Clean yourself
offensive. YouTube
up.
will ban you. I don't like this racialism. Netflix is going to reboot me.
All right. RVDL says, Neil hoped to burn out, but he chose to fade away. What a sad old man.
I just listened to Sweet
Sad.
Judy Blue Eyes before I came up.
Neil Young. Sad Neil Young.
What is this? Saluk Erotic says, I hope Neil Young will remember. A Southern man don't need him around anyhow. Sweet home Alabama. Yep, they don't need him around. Neither do we. You could be an internet person. You could be a freedom-loving person. You could be a music or podcast listener. None of us need you, Neil Young. Sorry.
Spotify don't need him around. That's it.
Yeah, they don't. DJ Buddy's Rock Garden says, dude, I'm 61 and a loyal listener. F Neil Young, disaffected liberal. Isn't it sad? You know.
He's an okay boomer.
He's an okay boomer.
Love him.
It was the thing about the thing about Neil Young is that he's this guy who's supposed to be protesting, rocking in the free world, and he's just an establishment shill.
The problem
He
is
was just
when
marketing
you,
the whole time.
when
It's
you
so
get
boring,
famous for something, there's a tendency to think that you're supposed to keep doing that thing you got famous for to continue to be famous. So he got really well known for being, for protesting. And it's like, at some point, you can change course. You don't need to keep being the guy that poured ketchup on your head every video to try and one up what made you get there. Now you're there. You can. I was in the shower, man. I almost came out hot on Neil Young, just ripping him to shreds personally. But I don't really know exactly what his thought process is here, so I'm not going to go too hard on him.
Let me earmuffs for your kids. Lee says, I'm one of the few CNN viewers. I was channel surfing and my BF came over. We started participating in adult activities, and he threw the remote, stopping it on CNN. I'm sorry. My worst mistake and biggest regret. Could you imagine with like Don Lemon in the background?
Oh, no.
How would that even work for any human
That wouldn't
being?
work.
Mind
I'll tell
over
you that
matter.
right now.
Mind over matter. Desperately trying to focus on something else. Jim Acosta comes on. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Nope. All right, Waffle Sensei says, Seamus, would you consider filling in for Luke till he gets back? You're hilarious, and we love you, dude.
Oh, I love you. Thank you so much for saying that. So yeah, Tim and I have definitely been talking about it. I might be hanging out for a little while and just
Yeah, Seamus came to me and asked.
I was begging. I said,
we-
Tim, please.
I started
Tim,
laughing.
You begged me. You said, Seamus, we need you. We need you over here. Shimcast is gonna fall apart without the original Shim Sham himself. And I said, I'll get here. I'll come there as fast as I can because I'm a good friend. And I got in my
Seamus
car
comes to me,
and I
he
drove
was
hours
like-
and hours and hours.
He was like, I couldn't help but notice Luke is gone. And I was like, and he was like, you think there's any chance? I don't know, like maybe I could. And I was like, Seamus, you think I would put you in Luke's chair? I called Luke. Luke immediately started screaming with laughter.
That is not even remotely what happened.
this
That is not
literally
even
his
what
chair?
happened.
Well,
Anyone
Luke-
who watches the
yeah.
vlogs,
Luke was here for a
anyone,
few months. He left. So now that's where he would sit.
anyone who watches the vlog will know the following is true. All right? Luke was on his way out. Old model, past his expiration date. gotta bring in the new
Nancy
model.
Pelosi of Timcast.
Exactly.
He will be back.
We're putting age limits.
I think
We're
Luke might be
putting age
listening, and
limits.
he's going to take offense to that one.
And Luke comes to me, despite the fact that I've been nothing but respectful and admiring towards the Polish people, and he starts trashing my ethnic background. And I said, look, Tim, I'm going to be honest. I think this guy's a PR disaster. I think he's going to get you in trouble. Tim said, you're right, Seamus. I've been thinking about it. I want to ask you on. He kicked Luke out that day. So pack your bags.
That's funny.
In all
Yeah.
seriousness, if
Well,
you
he
want
just
to
exposed our whole PR campaign.
support Luke Rudkowski, go to
Then Tim said we have to-
thebestpoliticalshirts.com.
And then
get
Tim
your favorite shirt.
changed his mascot to like non-binary so that we wouldn't have any controversy.
What actually happened is that Luke left, and I said, we can see if we can have some people come in and out. We have different cast, people who work at the castle or work for Timcast.com. And then Seamus was like, I'm going to be heading back, and I said, when are you coming back? And he said, I think I might be back in a day or so. And I was like, can you try and get back before the show because we could really use you on the show? And Seamus was like, yeah, for sure. And then that's what really happened.
That is what it- First of all, that is not what happened. I did not say I was going to be back in a day or so. Tim said, if you're not back in a day or so, this is going to fall apart.
But I actually said it like, if you're not back in a day or so. And my arms are going like this.
If you're not back by the end of the day. Speaking of which, check out the newest Freedom Tunes, everybody. It's pretty good. Tucker Carlson and Bernie Sanders. But yeah, that's what happened. But yes, so I will be filling in for a little while.
Yes, Seamus will be filling in. I mean, before Luke showed up, we didn't actually have a fourth person. Mm-hmm. And then when we built this new studio, we had a fourth person in mind because it used to just be three.
That's Tim putting me on notice.
Well,
He's
there's
like,
a
I'm just
chance.
letting you know we didn't always have four
Now-
people.
Yeah,
now
now-
you can have a fifth.
Yeah, we do. Sometimes, but too many people, it becomes like a cacophony of
Right, right.
It happens.
Yeah.
All right, we got this one from Wonder Without the Fear. Says Truckers Convoy 2022. This needs to be addressed. This peaceful and truckers helps everyone. Many USA truckers are coming up to CA. So much love. Keep it peaceful. Yeah, did you guys hear this massive trucker convoy, man?
Yeah, and the GoFundMe. Something about this GoFundMe. They had
They
$5
froze
million, and they froze this $5 million going to the truckers.
Of course.
What's up with that?
Yeah, well, GoFundMe's like until you can give us a plan as to what you're going to do with the money, frozen.
Right.
I had Judicial Watch do a petition to get a special counsel for Joe Biden. And I was a little nervous about using change.org, but I did it, and 350,000 people have signed up. And the people were saying, well, that's a leftist organization. It's like, well, good.
Yeah.
What better place than to advocate holding Joe Biden accountable than on change.org?
So what are these truckers doing exactly?
They're protesting the vax mandates.
And what are they doing? Are they on the road just
they're
halted?
driving. Yeah.
It's
They're
just
just in a big convoy.
Good.
Imagine
Disrupting a supply chain.
Imagine screwing with truckers right now. How stupid! How unbelievably
Vindictive.
stupid you have to be. It's because everyone has to obey. Doesn't matter if it's going to make life way more difficult for everybody. They're out of line and they have to be punished.
To be fair, though, imagine screwing with truckers at any point.
No, that's also true, but especially
chain.
now. You're absolutely right. We really depend on them. But now, of all times, like when there's already supply chain issues, when we're already having food shortages, I know who we're going to screw with. The people who bring us our food. Brilliant. Great job. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, we got Rakusa says, Tim, waiting for you to pull your Brett Mason signature telly off the wall and break out, and we're not going to take it. I can dream, can't I? Well, we were planning on doing a show when we were going to have Michael Graves. But he couldn't make it. We used to do Friday night jam sessions, but we're set up for it for the most part. So maybe, especially when we have guests on that are musicians, which probably will be
great. That would be great.
Yeah, we used to do Friday night. We would just jam out for like a half an hour after the show, play songs, play music. People clipped a whole bunch of my songs and put them up, which they were like, after talking for like 7 hours in one day, then trying to sing was just brutal.
Oh, no, I believe it.
Yeah, I'd be like, not gonna take it.
They're good though. Those video clips are great. A lot of those songs. That's how I learned a lot of your music is through those clips.
Oh, there you go. I'm surprised. They got a lot of views on some of them. All right. Nick Rose says, Seamus is Boondock Saints minus the guns. We love him.
This is really
Tim,
offensive.
we love your work in the crew. Tom, thank God for Judicial Watch. IRL kicks ass. P.S. Democracy in peril equals Democrat mandates.
Who says I don't own firearms? But thank you very much. I'm glad that you love me.
All right. Let's grab some. Brown Bear says, who the hell is Neil Young? All of the young people who watch the show just went, who?
More like Neil Old, bro.
Yeah,
No one knows who you are.
That's a thing to consider, too, when we're like, yo, Neil Young is issuing an ultimatum. Anyone under, like, 30 went, who?
I'm under 30.
Yeah, I know who he was.
You've never heard Neil Young before.
That's true. I don't even
Not
know who
once.
he is. I've heard Neil Young.
Old Man is
I like
such a
the
good
classics.
song.
Yeah, he's got the rockin'. He's got Ohio. He's got rockin' in the Free World, I think, too. Right?
Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. I mean, but when Neil left the band, it was just Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and they were never even held a candle to what the four of those guys did.
Yeah, well, Neil Young, I see this move, and I'm just like, it makes me feel that everything he's ever said has been a lie, just to pander to people to sell albums.
I don't. I still think he's legit, but I think he's just gone. He's like in a computer program on repeat.
Luke still believes in Neil Young.
And he's afraid of COVID.
You heard it here. Yeah.
All right.
I believe
PTSD.
it for sure.
Preps says, hey, Tim, did you hear about Tiffany Cross on MSNBC? She actually told people to get weapons and fight in a war. She's trying to get people to physically harm people for their opinions and choices. I think she was being metaphorical. You know, she was like, we are in a war and people need to, she made that statement. I'm going to be very careful here. But I'll tell you this. It doesn't matter if it was metaphorical or not. Mm-hmm. She actually said on MSNBC that people should take up weapons. Alex Jones got banned for that. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons he got banned, because he had made metaphorical statements about, fighting back and defending yourself and stuff like that. So, there's there's two rules here. So
Jen Psaki was like, go to the weekend, drink a margarita, come back on Monday, and let's fight. And I know it's a metaphor.
Class, she said.
She said take a kickboxing class. Then she said have a margarita. Then she said come back on Monday and fight. Like, you're gonna tell people to come fight? Is that not inciting?
Yes, that caused the president of the United States to be impeached.
It's this metaphor, fight. You hear Elizabeth Warren, we're going to fight for rights and fight. And you're like, dude, this is an annoying metaphor. It's bland. You obviously don't mean to take up physical arms. Why are you saying fight? But it's a metaphor that can get you banned on YouTube if you say it.
Depending on your political views. If Tim said we're not going to take it anymore, they'd probably construe that as a threat.
Yeah, if I got up and went, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, they'd be like, whoa, shut it down.
What are you implying?
Yeah, what are you implying?
I don't like the fight metaphor. I especially these politicians using it to rile people up. I don't like it.
If I came out and said, I want to rock and roll all night and party every day, they'd just be like, oh, shut it down.
Like when he had a blade behind him and a firearm on the wall,
we know what party means.
Someone suggested you get a cutlass, so it's true form.
That's a mall sword. Yeah. It means I went to the mall and I went to some weeb guy who was like, you want to buy an Asian sword? And I was like, yeah.
They said that the sword cheapens the gun that replica so that you could get a cutlass and make the full pirate theme. I thought that's kind of neat. Yeah.
I literally was looking on the room like, what can I put behind me? And I'm like, I have a mall sword. And I have this flint lock, and that's all that happened.
Beautiful.
And then we actually had a different
decor.
Yeah, we had a different guitar behind me, but it was too bright, so we put up the Brett Mason. That dude is legit an incredible guitarist. Wow, this guitar is rad too. That dude's awesome. All right, let's see what we got here. We got The World Says, why don't we just allow debtors to file for bankruptcy? Student loans are the only loans where you cannot file for bankruptcy.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, well, also, you can't repossess a degree, which is part of it. I'm not saying that there isn't a massive issue with the student loans and the interest payments right now, but it's a very differently structured
You
loan.
used to be able to default until George Bush Jr. He passed some legislation that you couldn't default on those.
There is a massive issue. We have adults making poor financial decisions and expecting taxpayers to come in and bail them out.
And
they're seeking a massive transfer of wealth from people who don't go to college to people who do. It's elitism in the worst way.
It is, and they're the highest income earners in the country.
Yeah, I think there's truth in that because
But I do
would
think the
be
system is corrupt.
Exactly.
It needs to be stopped. We stop these loans.
It's a federal government program, and it's supported by the government.
Exactly.
It wouldn't happen without government support.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, no, I mean, and according to the National Bureau for Economic Research, the entire reason you have this student loan crisis and the entire reason college is so expensive is because of the wide availability of easy money. So I agree with you there, and it would be an incredibly regressive tax to, quote unquote, forgive student loans, but at the same time, the idea of somebody paying off significantly more than they ever took out, having paid off their debt and still having thousands of dollars left, I think is insane.
Standard interest. You could do away with that standard interest.
All right, Nick Zilla says, I don't see how this is a backfire for Neil Young. Read his actual statement. He got what he asked for. He's crazy about audio quality and has hated Spotify since forever. Being off Spotify is probably worth it to him regardless of any Rogan feelings.
That's what I'm talking about.
No, he wanted to take his music off because of quality. But then later, I guess he said something like, this is the place where people are getting their music, and he wants people to hear his music, so he's going to stay on the platform. I genuinely believe, in my opinion, I think it's a fair point, absolutely, because Neil said, take me off unless you take off Rogan, so they did, so he got what he asked for. But I genuinely believe he thought it was going to be this moment where these other artists would be like, we're with Neil Young, yay, and then Spotify would be like, I guess we got to get rid of Joe Rogan. And then Joe would be like, oh, and then they would all high-five each other. Instead, Spotify was like, bye, Neil, have a nice day.
Joe increased the value of their company by like 10 times by joining that platform.
The stock skyrocketed. It's crazy.
I don't know exactly
the day after
number,
they announced it was like, boom. So, yeah, they're not. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Crenshaw said he couldn't live off of $175,000 a year. Wow. Really?
I may need some
They say
context
that?
on that. What was it?
Man, it feels like Dan Crenshaw's been like just getting a lot of heat as of late, kind of just
Couldn't survive.
not doing well.
That's insane. Yeah.
We are going to have Dan Crenshaw on the show at some point,
We are.
and I think that'll be fascinating.
I think I've done a good job surviving.
Luke will be
off
back
less
for
than
that, too.
I would be in
170K
favor of
for-
kicking up the salaries for members of Congress as part of my reform agenda. You get people in here for 10 years, and what happens is you have government is designed to let people who work in government prosper, but normal people, they're not welcome in government. And the salaries reflect that. So someone who's a businessman or just starting out, a young person in their career, the idea they come to Congress, they couldn't afford to do it. Why don't we make it affordable to someone to come here for a few years and leave?
Ben Franklin suggested that we pay them nothing and that everyone has to do it. I think
Only rich people would do it then.
Well, you don't really now in the modern age. You don't have to move to D.C. to be serving in Congress necessarily. You could read the bills and vote online.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately a negative.
Yeah, I think people need to be there to vote. Look at what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. They don't even show up. So you should have to show up.
I don't know.
We got a very important one.
They don't want people coming into the Capitol anymore. They don't.
Right.
Pelosi basically said, "Don't come."
This is a horrible gamer says, Tim, you lie. What? The trespassing, the swatting was all an elaborate plan to scare Luke to GTFO to Florida so you can bring in Shameless. Luke's seat is still warm, Tim.
I'm not even going to.
Do you know that person? It sounds uniquely personal.
Was that you?
There are a lot of
super chat.
There are many people who are obsessed with me on the internet who create rumors and lies to make me look bad. None of that is true.
You never expect the Seamus Inquisition.
Seamus,
I'm not on trial.
I got to be honest.
I'm not on trial.
Seamus, I got to tell him the truth.
I'm not on trial.
Just plead the fifth.
It's time we told him the truth.
Tim.
Seamus and I colluded this whole thing.
Stop it, Tim. What are you doing? It's
to
not
scare Luke away.
Don't listen to him. He's crazy.
Seamus
Tim is
offered me
insane.
money.
Tim's crazy. What money can I offer you? What are you talking about, Tim?
Seamus
He
is the
offered
one
it.
who actually got me the Anthony Fauci bobblehead. We laundered it through Ian so that Luke wouldn't know.
Seamus actually asked me to come out here in the first place after years ago.
What?
before I
How
ever
did
knew
this
you.
turn into so many things I never did? Cut your hair. What am I, Delilah?
You have a nice haircut, by the way. I don't know if
Thank
we
you. I
pointed
appreciate
that out.
that.
We
You
should
know
have
what?
led with that.
We're turning it back around. It started with accusations,
Sorry,
and now
Seamus got a haircut.
I am getting compliments from my haircut. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate that. When I was waiting for someone to notice, shame on the super chats. I thought I looked very nice. I was excited for compliments from my adoring fans, and you guys didn't say anything
Scale on
nice
1
to
to
me,
10.
so-
How beautiful is Seamus's hair?
Just let me know. in the comments.
They're saying they're all putting a 1.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
They didn't have time to respond, Tim.
All right. Joel Seberg says, I'm a CDL driver and have many skills. Let me know if you need help, please. I'm also adept in construction and farming.
I see a 10.
Well, actually, with the new trailer that we're building for the mobile shows, we're planning on going down to Florida to meet back up with Luke for one of our mobile shows. We did this in Austin. It was amazing. And it was one of the funniest shows we've ever done. It was like Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, Blair White, Drew Hernandez, Ian, me, Luke. And who am I forgetting? Is that
Michael Malice.
Michael Malice?
You did forget me.
I forgot the guy sitting next to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
No, we were like, Seamus, no one tell him. And then we all had a party. And
I
we're
know.
like,
People are like, hey, look at Timcast
He
tonight.
shows up at the place. Where is everybody?
Yeah.
But Joe,
I was here alone.
That's true.
people are saying -1. No, Joe, I didn't think he was gonna be able to come on the show because he had his own show. But he was like, I can stop by. And then it was just funny when he was like, I show up to a trailer on the side of the road. Like, I'm like, yep.
It's us.
Exit 2.
from
Literally,
his-
exit 2.
Yes.
Exactly. From Joe's nice podcast studio. There's like stars on the ceiling and like shooting stars.
Oh,
It's crazy.
nice.
It's amazing. To a trailer on the side of the road where it's like everyone's yelling at each other. And he's like,
Downgrade.
we're hoping we can do that with the Daily Wire crew.
for sure.
Oh, you're going to not invite me to that either, Tim?
Definitely.
Huh?
Oh,
Gonna go hang
definitely.
out with the Daily Wire crew?
We're gonna tell
Where's
Seamus.
that? Where's
Nashville.
this place?
tell me it's
Nashville.
somewhere else.
We're gonna get there, and Seamus is gonna wake up. It's gonna be like he's gonna walk around like rubbing his eyes, and he's gonna be like, "No one's home."
Is this Home Alone, bro?
Yes.
Is this every single time? Because that's what happened last time. Except I was at my apartment. I wasn't even. I was nowhere near Tim.
We're in Nashville.
I was nowhere near Tim, but I was still offended I wasn't
I
invited.
think it's only like 9 hours from here or something. But
That's not a bad
we
drive.
talked to them about it, and we might be able to set up our studio in one of their lots because we have the big mobile fifth wheel. We have a new one where redesigning is going to be amazing. And then it would actually be really cool to do. We wanted to do like one of each of their hosts, every night,
Right.
and maybe do one big night with a bunch of the Daily Wire people all at once. It would just be really fun. Love it.
I wouldn't invite Knowles to something like that.
No,
You
not
would.
him.
Shots
No,
fired,
he's a
geez.
mess. He's a mess.
Yeah, I want to do a theology debate at some
Everybody
point
else.
with Seamus and Michael Knowles, and we've had some other brilliant Catholics and Christians and other just
Well,
theologians.
I don't know about Knowles, but I appreciate the compliment. No, I mean honestly, Knowles is. I hate to compliment him. He's a smart guy.
I like that guy.
I'd love to.
Hey,
I'd
shout
love
out to Matt Walsh on Dr. Phil too.
That was great,
Dude, shout out to the Daily Wire for
It's
standing up
just
to the
these
mandates,
these
man.
Catholic political commentators. They're crushing it.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Ben Shapiro, you took a mega risk and
Jeremy Boring.
balls
yeah.
to
And,
the
yeah, Jeremy.
and Jeremy.
Yeah.
Nice job, guys.
They won.
They did.
And they won. All right, well, we got one more right here. It's an important one. Mike says, convoy to Ottawa is going to be a huge story. Need to get on that story. Store shelves are beginning to empty. Convoy is 3,000 plus trucks over 50 miles long. Absolutely, man. So we'll be digging into that stuff. But don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show wherever you can. Share it with all your friends. That's our marketing budget. We don't got billboards. We're not in airports. None of that YouTube propping us up.
Nope.
We're actually swimming against the current. And if you like what we do, please share and go to timcast.com, become a member. We are going to have a members only segment. We're going to talk about elections and stuff. So you're not going to want to miss this one over at timcast.com. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL basically everywhere. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever at Timcast. Tom, you want to shout anything out?
Judicialwatch.org, judicialwatch.org. We're everywhere else, but I mean, you can actually look at the documents we're talking about. So
And they can help.
I hate it.
You guys are a nonprofit?
we are. You can support by getting the word out and obviously directly donating to us.
Are you guys a 501c3 or
Yes, we are a charity,
501c3?
Yes.
So tax deductible.
tax deductible.
There you go.
To the full extent of the law.
There it is. Right on. Absolutely. You got any social media you want to mention?
Yeah, I'm at Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch is all over, and I'm on all the places now.
Right. Seamus, do you sell T-shirts?
No, I actually, freedomtunesmerch.com. I guess I do.
Oh, you do sell T-shirts?
Yeah. So I do.
know
Tim,
this
thank
works.
you. And
yeah,
if you guys want to check those out, I have a YouTube channel.
Oh.
It's called Freedom Tunes. If you guys want to check that out, TOONS. And we uploaded a video yesterday poking some fun at Tucker Carlson and the whole Eminem debacle. And tomorrow we're going to be doing a cartoon. We're going to be releasing one parodying the idea of forcing children to wear masks in schools. I think you guys are going to love it. Go over there, subscribe.
The line from Bernie in your latest video, "This is bull," is one of the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You guys can also follow me, IanCrossland.net. Check my socials out there. I also have a YouTube channel. Subscribe to me on YouTube. I made a video yesterday for the first time in a while talking about the scientific modeling methods and some flaws I think there are in it. So if you want to see that, check it out on YouTube, and I will see you soon.
Thank you guys for tuning in this evening. Please do share the video and tell all your friends about us and get everybody involved in this, and we try to change the culture and make a difference in the world. You guys may follow me on Twitter at Sour Patch Lids.
We will see you all over at timcast.com. Become a member to support our work, and you will see these special uncensored segments. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all there.
Bye, guys.